Where's the damn link? All right, I sent the invite links and I'm hopping off Discord. There's Will. Hello.
Hey there.
How's it going?
All's well. All's well.
Where are my settings that I can change my background?
Well, let me know
There.
if you want anything out of me in particular. If you want me to pull up articles or information, or if you want a certain tone.
That would be great. I'm very ill prepared compared to usual.
Okay.
I don't know what changed as of yesterday, because normally, I get most of my shit together the day before and I toss all you guys the articles, but I don't know what happened here.
Okay. Well, this doesn't matter.
Yeah. I wonder where Moonshock is. I sent him the link. We are live, by the way.
Are we? Hot.
Yeah. I went trying to.
I need to not talk about my crippling hamster sex addiction. So that's.
I mean, I'm pretty sure crippling hamster sex addiction is fine on YouTube.
Right.
But you're not allowed to talk about self-deletion or the beverage bug.
Is that like suicide inside of the simulation?
I mean, you said the very first word you said was it.
Yeah, but it only makes sense if we live in the simulation. You know simulation theory?
Yeah, I'm aware of simulation theory.
Yeah.
So the thing is,
if we're all like little computer programs, right? And you delete yourself.
You don't really have to worry about this stuff because we're not monetized anyway.
Oh. Why not?
And Moon is here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We don't have that many followers, so we're not.
Why don't we sell coffee cups?
I do sell coffee cups, but that's my merch line.
I see.
I've got one that says Badass Brigade, and it's got the Badass Brigade logo on it. And on the other side says World's Greatest Badass.
Okay, cool.
Because, coffee cup. You got to have World's Greatest whatever on it.
Yes, of course.
I don't know. You might want to do a like a Borderlands thing with that. You know the badasses in Borderlands where you'd shoot I think it was the Goliaths. You'd shoot their head off, and they'd be like a tiny little head. Yeah, and then they get really pissed and then murder everything, and then they start running around and they'd level up. So I don't know, like if you had like an icon that had just like a tiny head person just ripping people apart and leveling up.
I mean, I've only got the one icon.
Oh,
let's see if
I'm just saying, like for a coffee mug.
Yeah, well, this is on the coffee mug. Let me pull it up and I'll show you what I'm talking about, what the icon is. Right here. Yeah, that's it. And then we will share screen. There you go.
Okay.
As you can see, it's got the very Viking style. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nordic.
I presume that's an undead Viking.
Sure. Yeah, we can go with that.
Well, because if he were actually dead, he wouldn't be that impressive. You just kind of like push him over.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, the cams fixed themselves. That's pretty nice. So, man, a lot has happened since the last Unishock talk. Holy fuck, a lot has happened.
How much do I get? How much do I get to bitch tonight?
As much as you want. This is you're the person.
I just feel like I'm gonna try to. I will indirectly try to usurp the entire conversation just to complain about how pissed off I am about this whole fucking thing and how people are stupid and how much how much I hate people.
I'm very pissed off that CHAZ is coming to an end too. Like that living meme was so great.
Yeah, why didn't it expand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the big question is, so they wanted to come after that slavery abolitionist. They got rid of his monument. They wanted to come after Abraham Lincoln. They wanted to come after Thomas Jefferson's monument for being racist, like for owning slaves. But, you know, they don't have a fucking problem with Marx.
No. Nope. Did you see the top of that that article?
I'm just going to leave this up while we talk, by the way. See the top of what?
Poodle there. I don't know which website you pulled. Let's see, what is this? Letters, but the I think can you scroll to the top?
Sure.
Yeah, I knew that this is what I was looking at. Read that. This right here is liquid gold. Fuck everything below it. This little bit right in here is just so amazing.
What, this bit?
Yes! That bit right there.
From History as a Weapon. It has come to our attention that this page is very popular with right-wingers who delight in Marx and Engels' use of racial slurs to discredit Marxist thought. Fortunately, Marx and Engels were Europeans of the 19th century, and in that period of time, racism was commonplace and permeated the political, scientific, religious, literary, and social spheres. I actually completely skipped over this and read the letter.
I know. Do you see how amazing this is already?
Marx contains multitudes. There are other letters from Marx that, for example, congratulate Abraham Lincoln on his re-election as the triumphant war cry of your re-election is death to slavery. So I've never heard a single account ever of Abraham Lincoln using the N-word or being racist in any manner. But this one account is just full of the N-word and slurs and racial slurs and all that.
It's full of N-bombs, that's for sure. No, what's amazing about this little comment above is that this was not written in 1862. This was written yesterday. This was written today. This was written in our time. And the argument that they're making as to why we should not throw Marx out as a racist is because he was a product of his times. Oh, okay. All right, fine. I will accept that principle. Now look at all the people they're trying to burn down.
Thomas Jefferson.
I can apply that to all of them.
Yeah, every single one of them.
So you've got a contradiction right there. So if the deal is you can't burn Marx because he said all these other things that they like and he was a product of his times, and you've got to kind of take a holistic approach towards judging history and all that kind of stuff. Oh, okay, sure, I'll do that. But see, now you've established the principle. Now I'm going to take
you're
that.
A hypocrite.
You can't have it both ways. And so this is very typical of Marxists. I don't know if anyone's aware. I despise Marxists.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Besides Marxists. I'm pretty sure even Marxists despise other Marxists.
They only when they're inconvenient to their power, and then they will knife them in the neck.
Which is what they do every time. The moment one Marxist gets power, he knifes the rest of the Marxists in the neck, in the back.
Unless they all immediately drop to their knees and start saying, "That thing you just said, I wasn't even listening, but it was amazing."
Yeah, as long as they keep clapping, the first one to stop gets the
right.
knife.
Exactly. It's that line from Blazing Saddles. I didn't get a harumph out of you.
Well, let's not forget that these Marxists also have to ask for a point of personal privilege if they want to talk to.
Oh,
exactly.
I'm agreeing.
That's right. So you guys are stressing me out because I'm like really, really sensitive to sound.
Hey! Stop the gendered language.
Yes. Stop saying you guys.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna leave this up until we get another source. Because this is a thing of beauty. It really is.
Previously, and I read the top of it, and that's why I recognized the formatting on this page. I'd seen this page before, and it has that amazing quote at the top, or justification, apologetics for this.
That amazing quote of, "Hey, it's fine when my heroes do it, but fuck yours."
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing is, you would swear that these people that are so praising socialism, Marxism, you would think that they would never heard of the last century. What happened to the Soviet Union, what happened to any kind of socialist or communistic country, that it does not work. That system is broken at its base.
Wait, are you maybe possibly talking about this?
There you go.
Well, I don't want to make it a huge thing because I can rant for hours on this, but the solution, in my opinion, to that little conundrum is that Marxism is actually a religion.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, definitely.
And
once you accept
covering that religion under Black Lives Matter currently.
Sure, but once you take that in as a possibility, then you understand this indifference to failure, this indifference to it not working. Because talk to the religion that has nothing but wall-to-wall failure, and ask them if that breaks their faith in their religion, and they'll say no. So it's the same thing.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Look at the Islamic world and the particularly Sharia law. It's terrible for those societies. It creates these unstable, poverty-ridden, technologically retrograde societies ruled by totalitarian jackasses in every case.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you can talk to the people advocating it, and you're like, well, do you like all those things? And they say no. Okay, well, this causes that. And they're like, well, I don't care. Okay, great. Well,
Muhammad said it's good, so why would I care? He knows better than I do.
Yeah, they're just saying, well, we haven't done Sharia law properly yet. We've been that isn't real Sharia law. And you laugh, right? But you can hear an Islamist saying that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear fucking communists saying that all the time.
Absolutely. It's the same thing. That's not real Sharia law. Real Sharia law is like that, but less shitty.
The thing I've been saying for the better part of a year now is, why don't we take our Democratic Socialists of America and transfer them with Hong Kong freedom fighters? We'll take all the Hong Kong freedom fighters. You can have all our communists.
Yeah.
It sounds like a win-win to me.
At this point, anyone who takes in the people from Hong Kong is going to win. Mm-hmm. It's going to be good for you. Looks like the United Kingdom might be pulling in a load of them.
Millions of them, yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
Good on them. I'm very happy they're doing that.
Absolutely. No, I mean, can you think of better defenders for the British liberalism, like proper actual liberalism, than people that just had their liberty taken away from them in Hong Kong by the CCP? Oh, it's the best. And those people, likewise, they're not going to join with the crazy identitarian stuff. They're not going to join with the kind of the rising specter of Islamism in the United Kingdom. So
yeah,
it's a win across the board.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree, and I'm very happy that they're doing that. Our brothers and sisters across the pond are going to be getting that aid, and they're also aiding the Hong Kongers, because no matter what they're at in the UK currently, it is better than Chinese rule.
Now,
anything is. Thing is that China's getting protection by every organization that's out there. WHO. There you go. Hey, China, we have to back up China because they're so wonderful and they're so, they're so with the times.
We didn't do that last time, did we?
No.
The UN.
I personally think that the U.S. should withdraw from the UN anyway, but that's my own opinion.
No, I'm talking about this.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
We didn't talk about that last time, did we?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so the UN decided that China does such a great job with human rights that they put them on the Council of Human Rights for the UN.
Yeah.
Despite the sweatshops?
despite the sweatshops, despite the Uyghurs, despite that right there, 100% tells me immediately, get rid of the UN. We're out. We're done. Fuck you guys. Defund it.
It's been bad for a while. I mean, Iran was on there as well.
Yeah, all these countries that you would see and you hear about all these transgressions that these countries commit. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we definitely need you guys on the council because you're such great countries and your human rights policies are so wonderful. God, where have you been that we haven't been able to have you on this council all these years?
The one of the big issues with the United Nations is that there are an enormous number of countries that have very different notions of what human rights are that ultimately belong to the United Nations. And when you try and pursue things that are not common amongst the nations, whatever institution you create is going to be subverted. So you could probably do things like establish some rules of war or something, particularly if you restrict the voting on that to Security Council members, right? AKA people that can actually hit you with a stick. But if you start telling, all the various banana republics of the world, you have to actually have actual elections rather than, make yourself El Presidente for life every time.
Oh, you mean how honest the North Korean elections are?
Where
you have to vote and there's only ever one candidate?
Well, Saddam Hussein famously got, I believe, 98% of the vote in Iraq, which I'm shocked it was that close.
Well, listen, I'm not even saying that they have to have democracy to have human rights. So you can have basic human rights and not be democratic at all.
No, you can't. Because because what's going to happen is people in the country are going to complain about not getting a say in things, and then the government is going to go over and murder their daughter. Yep. And that's pretty much what happens in every case. So and they'll smile and they'll look you in the face and they'll say, "Oh yeah, human rights and all those other little things," and they'll say all the nice words, but they don't believe it. And then what they're going to do is they're going to direct their diplomats and whatever to go into the United Nations and subvert your council. That's what they're all doing.
My point, though, is it is 100% a possibility for you to not have democracy and have basic human rights in your country.
Sure.
Now, granted, you are right. 99.999999% of the time, that doesn't happen. Sure, I'll give you that. I'm just saying it's a possibility. And if the UN were to actually map these basic human rights out and be like, hey, this is the gold standard, this is what everyone should be striving for, I feel like it would go a long way.
No, I agree with you. The problem is that then you have a vote. And the countries that 99.9999% of the countries where people don't have a democracy, they're all going to show up there with their smiling snakes and screw you.
Yeah.
So like it's not even. I'm not even any vote where the non-democratic country gets to vote. Why am I doing that? They don't believe in democracy. Why do they get a vote? If the notion of country X is whoever has the most power gets to make the decision. Well, I got more nuclear weapons than you, so I'm going to tell you what you voted. I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper, and any complaints you throw at me, I'm going to put in the circular filing cabinet, because that's what you do with your own people.
All right. So if that were the case, then shouldn't the U.S. be dictating what basic human rights are? We're the most powerful nation on the planet.
Well, sure, but what does that even mean? So, like, let's say we do that, right? We dictate. We just express our opinion. What are we going to do about it?
I mean, what can we really do about something like that?
Well, I don't know. You can either do nothing. You can do political pressure. You can do economic sanctions, or
like
you can go to war.
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, these are the range of options that nation states have when they come into serious disagreements with each other.
I feel
So-
like the economic way is about the only way to go about it in this nuclear age.
Well, yeah. So I mean, what we did during the Cold War, no one learns about the Cold War. It's amazing. So we had this concept called the First World, the Second World, and the Third World, and everyone's fucked it up with this notion of the First World is like modern people, and Third World is people that live in huts, and Second World is like somewhere in between. What it
I don't
actually
think I've ever heard of a second world nation.
Second world was generally Soviet Union, communist countries, and whatnot.
Right,
Okay,
during the
that
Cold-
makes sense.
during the Cold War, the First World were allies of the United States. The Second World was allies of the Soviet Union, and the Third World was basically everybody not aligned. And that's what it meant. And we induced people to join the First World largely through trade. So you'd go to various country that basically is staying out of it. And the United States says, hey, would you like a trade deal? We've got this thing called free trade, and we want to promote freedom and the free world. And we'll protect you with the arsenal of freedom. And all that stuff. It's like branding. Everything we talked about had free or freedom on it. But that's what it was. And so you look at what China's doing right now with the One Belt, One Road. They're trying to create a second world. They're trying to build what the Soviets had, kind of, sort of, with the second world. They're trying to create a network of divergent nations that have their own separate trade network, which is separated from the U.S. and U.S. Finance, U.S. law, U.S. practices, all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, that's
They wanna
because
do
that's
that.
where we have them by the balls.
It's not especially successful right now, but they're trying to build it.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things they're doing in Africa right now that is worrying a lot of people is they're making these really lavish infrastructure deals with these countries. So you look at a country that has a problem with clean water and electricity for its people, and they come in and they say, I'll build you a world-class seaport so you can get import and export out of the country to make you guys some money.
But
We will build you a modern electrical network.
Hi,
We
Lindsay.
will, we will provide you with water treatment facilities, whatever, so you've got clean water, and we'll even build out your cell phone system with 5G.
Yep.
And so there's different conditions that happen with this. So one of them is, you're going to pay me. So there's a certain amount of money, and if you don't pay me, there's going to be certain assets in your country that I'm going to own. Or they'll say, I'll give you this in return for
Like a base.
a certain kind of trade deal that I have with your country. They do different deals. I forget which country it was. They said that country would get a free convention center. There's like a giant convention center that China would build for this African country. And the condition was that it would be built by Chinese people that would be sent from China to Africa. And then at the conclusion of the construction, those Chinese people would remain in Africa,
Right.
or in that African country. And the reason China was sending these people is they were actually convicts. So it was a convict labor colony was shipped from China to this country. They built the convention center, and the notion is when it's done, they don't go back to China. They now live in Africa, or sorry, that country.
That really makes sense considering how racist the Chinese government is.
Sounds like expats to me.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Haven't they heard about Black Lives Matter?
Oh, no, of course not.
Please.
We should have. Why isn't there a BLM protest in China?
That's the same reason there's not a BLM protest in Oklahoma.
Also, the same reason why if you were actually to talk to a real
There are
African
BLM
person-
protests in Oklahoma, dude.
Oh, no, they didn't last long.
No, but all it takes is one person with a T-shirt.
No, go talk
Let
to
me
a real
pull this
African. Cut to a real African person and tell them that we're calling these people African Americans, and they'll look at you and like think you're an idiot.
Yeah, it's a difficult jumble of the language we've made, but there's not a lot you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Moment.
I just don't like the titles. This political correctness crap is just stupid.
I know. I'm kind of a prisoner of it. I can't get out of the box.
See, this is why there aren't protests in Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah, see? There absolutely was a protest.
Yeah, and it didn't last.
All
They were like,
right.
nope, this ain't Seattle. Fuck off. We ain't playing this fucking game, motherfucker.
Let me see if I can find the article with the Hells Angels. There's a small California town where Antifa was going to do a big rally. And I guess there was an Hells Angels chapter that was in that town. And they informed Antifa that if they do a thing there, that the Hells Angels will attend.
And you can feel free to share your screen, and I'll pull it up whenever you're ready.
I'll just give you the link.
Or that, yeah. Let's pull up the Marks Angles correspondence while we're waiting.
I still have one big question that's been looming over this whole time. Tell me one or maybe two or three things. Tell me just one thing that black folks in the United States are not getting that supposedly everybody else is. You know, what rights are they not getting?
Well,
the right to the
due
police
process is one thing that they're saying they're not getting.
Really?
The
Well, that's
one
what they're
thing
saying they're not
getting that white people are getting is the right for the police that kill them to get paid vacations. No, I'm not even joking. You look at Tony Timpa. He had pretty much the exact same scenario as George Floyd. He was a white guy that died in Dallas, Texas. The cops were fucking making jokes after he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
They got paid vacation while the investigation went on. They didn't even get suspended. They were just like, they went right back to work after the investigation.
It's because a white person died. There's no controversy in that.
Exactly. So that's the right that they're getting, the right to have that we're getting that they're not, the right to have your cops who killed you get paid vacations.
If George Floyd had white skin, none of this would have happened.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You know, this just happened to occur. And I'm not even going to say the right place or the right time. It's more like the wrong place at the wrong time. You have all these people that are cooped up, you know, tired of being told you have to stay indoors. This cabin fever is going to spill over and get really, really pissy. And then this happens.
Yeah.
So you already have how many millions of really pissed off people, and now you have something for them to be pissed off about. You know, a real issue. You know, and then all of a sudden, shit like CHAZ happens, and they are not protests. These are riots. These people are not protesters. They are criminals. They are looters. You know, the only people that I will call protesters are the ones that are peaceful. Sure, you can hold a sign, no problem. But if the second that you cross the line and you start destroying stuff or stealing stuff, you are now a criminal.
I 100% agree with that statement.
There is no difference.
Here's this neat little tweet that some guy, I think his name's Universe Man, tossed up there. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that. There we go. Fun fact, there were 41 unarmed people killed by police in the U.S. in 2019. So we burn our cities to the ground. There were 41 shark attacks in the U.S. in 2019. What should we do about this? Poison the oceans? Seems like an appropriate response when compared to the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the other thing here is that there for every one of these incidents of an unarmed person being killed, there's a lot of reasonable interactions and things that make sense. And if your notion is that this number has to go to zero, that's never going to happen. There's no place where that it's not going to happen anywhere. So you have to have some statistically acceptable number of people where you look at that and you go like, well, I'm not happy about it, but there's not really a practical way to lower that number.
There is a practical way to lower that number, though, with what we're at. So we do have significantly minimal chances of an unarmed perpetrator, suspect, getting killed by the police. As a black person, specifically in 2019, you have 3 million% chance of picking a random American last year and then being a black unarmed person killed by police. Now, that's incredibly low. So the thing, though, is to lower that even further. I agree. I do agree with police reform. Not even so much like demilitarizing them, but just getting rid of police unions, because the police unions are the reason that people were allowed to kill Tony Timpa and then joke about it and get a paid fucking vacation.
The only condition I would have on that is you'd have to kill all the other government unions.
I'm fine with this.
So that would be the teachers union. That would be
100%. Teachers union has done nothing good for this country.
The DMV ladies.
Fuck yeah, you're that too.
Yeah, well, the problem then with that is that all of these organizations together are deeply embedded into local politics. They are frequently they're kingmakers for who becomes mayor, and they are central to the political machines that run a lot of the major cities. So if you look at New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Atlanta, there's this kind of gross relationship which develops between the public unions and the politicians, where ultimately the politicians, the elected politicians, which are supposed to be, for the people of the city, they start to represent mostly the public unions of the city. And not and that then means that they're electing the people that decide what their wages are, which is a little bit of a conflict of interest, which is why we've seen rampant increases.
Because if you're like, all right, we're going to keep things the same, then you're not getting elected. Or we're going to raise everyone's money up, then they're like, all right, that's our guy.
Right. And so what will happen is the unions will donate millions of dollars to name the politician, and they'll rally for them. They'll help organize. They'll knock on doors. They'll do all kinds of stuff, which just comes with union support. It's very hard. Imagine trying to go against a politician who has all that going for him. It's going to be very hard to overcome all that. Not only are they going to get all those union members all voting against you, if you wanted to do something like union pension reform or something like that, let's say it had gotten out of control, well, they're all gonna rally against you. And what this also goes back to is that government employees didn't used to be able to unionize. There was an agreement that was made, I think, in the 1930s regarding this, and the deal that they struck, which has been completely violated, was that they could unionize if they agreed not to be political. They had to not campaign, they had to not rally, they had to not donate, all that kind of stuff. That was the deal. You can unionize, but you can't do all this stuff. And of course, that immediately happened anyway. And when people brought up the agreement, they then went to the Supreme Court. They said, hey, we have a right to our First Amendment rights to freedom of association and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, you do. But if we'd known that you were going to do this, and we really should have, some of us did, we wouldn't have given this to you. We were like, because you can't cite in the Constitution a right to unionize. That's not there. So they gave them that, and on condition that they would abide by certain rules, and they immediately broke those conditions. So they basically got something for nothing. Yeah, it's a consistent pattern.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a consistent pattern when you're dealing with Marxists.
Yep.
Which I'm calling the unionists Marxists. Yes.
They
fucking quote me on that bitch.
They frequently actually are. I mean, self-described. If you are looking at a lot of the teachers' unions, if you look at the teacher orientation material, it will be straight up Marxist propaganda in there. And they have little litmus tests in there where if you are hostile to that stuff, they'll drive you out of the education system. Damn. So it creates a groupthink around that.
Yeah, that is 100% true. Here, let me go ahead and see if this is what I'm looking at. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for.
So we were talking about some different concepts for what we wanted to talk about. I'll just go briefly through a few things that we were talking about. So obviously the CHAZ and BLM. Then there's the re-lockdown for COVID.
Ugh.
Because the lockdown kind of went away for while the protests were really intense,
Mhm.
and then
they're
immediately
doing
after that, everyone's like, "Okay, you got to go back inside."
They're doing that in my state too. They're talking about that shit.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then there's the security theater of masks. Now, do you guys remember what happened after 9/11 with the regulations by the FAA at the airports and all the searches and whatever?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been maintained at a lower burn to today. I mean, you go to an airport, there is more security there than there was before the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Right.
But how effective is any of it? And
Not effective at all. They have not found anything of use. Like the shit that they even boast about finding, it's all fake shit that wouldn't have done anything anyway. Like for instance, a grenade lighter.
yeah,
I don't know if the grenade lighter is the exact instance, but it's kind of along the lines of the shit that they find. Like, oh, hey, just a lighter that it looks like something dangerous.
right.
Hmm.
No,
But-
so and the Israelis contacted us after the whole thing. We were talking. The United States and Israel were talking because they have a serious problem with terrorism in Israel,
Yeah.
and they have a way of dealing with it in their airports. And what they do is they know everybody that goes to the airport. They, you are free to walk down the street. You are free to express your opinion. You are free to vote in the elections. All that kind of stuff, but Israel does maintain close tabs on people that they think are likely to do a terrorist attack. And so when they see the guy that they think is a problem go to the airport, they actually contact the airport and they say, "Okay, guy on our watch list is getting on a plane." And what they'll do in Tel Aviv is that guy comes up to go through baggage checking, and his name is red flagged. They know what he looks like, and they'll pull him aside and they'll do a special check for him because he's a problem. And then but everybody else, generally speaking, goes through much less security. Still a lot of security, but it's not as intense as the guy who's on all the damn lists. And that
makes sense.
has a track record of working. Now that makes people uncomfortable because they'll look at that and they'll say, well, that seems like a fascistic thing to have people on lists and subject them to additional security screening. But it's not. That we're doing it right now. B, every other country does it. They just don't do it quite as intensely, and not with the same kind of focus.
If you want to consider that a thing, like we kind of do the same thing with firearms.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you are making crazy statements to the governor every other day, and then you say, "Oh, by the way, I'd like to buy a whole bunch of guns." Yeah, sure. The ATF is going to look at you a little extra carefully,
As you would expect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing though about shitty people and Black Lives Matter is kind of my way of segueing this. I don't remember if I had this set to share sound. Here, let's stop the share and make sure I have it. Oh, I didn't have it set to share audio. Boom. There we go. I'm sure you guys saw this guy, right?
Right.
It's kind of old news, but we didn't really get to talk about it.
Yeah.
So as you can see, he walks up. He just kind of waltzes up and he's like waving his phone around and touches the cop's gun right there.
Yeah, you don't do that.
And then gets shoved down. He takes his time getting down. If you watch the full video, he takes his time getting down and then suddenly he's got blood all over the back of his head. Watch. Oh, fucking touches it. Boom, right there. there is also audio where there's also programs on the phone where you can wipe their fucking radios with that shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, from a different video, I got this little screenshot of him on the ground. You see that blood coming from his ear?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this?
It's really, really small.
It is very small, but
Oh, there
the fuck is this?
Huh.
Right here.
I don't know.
Because there's a strap for the mask. It goes around the ear, and then it's right there. This goes right into the folding of the ear, and you can kind of see it coming out here.
What you would do, you could probably put a little liquid in your ear. I mean, it seems to be the suggestion. What we're talking about is that this guy's a faker, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Well, just going with that for the sake of argument, then what you'd probably do is you'd probably put a little bit of blood, fake blood, or whatever you're putting in your ear, and then just be careful about how you tilt your head. And then when you ultimately go down, it's just going to leak out of your ear.
Yeah.
You have to be careful about how you hold your head as you're walking around. But if you put a small amount in and didn't move around a lot, it wouldn't leak out.
But the thing is, doesn't this seem a little rounder than it should be?
I don't know.
Well, I still want to know what the hell that guy was thinking. Obviously, he had an agenda, but seriously, did he not think that something wasn't going to happen off of this? I mean, he's sitting there agitating these cops.
The way I put it on Twitter when someone was saying about he just touched the firearm with the phone.
Doesn't matter. You don't touch them ever.
I said, as someone who has carried a sidearm, I don't give a fuck what you're touching it with. If you are touching my sidearm, it is loaded. I'm going to do whatever it is necessary to stop you from touching my sidearm, because that is my life on the line and the life of everyone around me.
Yeah. Look, shoving him, I think, was a tactical error by the police. Look, I'm not blaming.
Even a tactical error. Like, that's the typical SOP. Like, bro, you're touching me. Get away.
Right. I hear what you're saying. But indifferent to whether you agree with this guy or not, a better standard operating procedure should have been to grab the guy, not throw him down on the ground, but just spin him around and handcuff him. Okay,
I'll give you that.
That's what should have been. But by pushing what looks like a 70-year-old man on the ground, and keep in mind, you're dealing with fucking Antifa. You're dealing with a bunch of crazy fucking communists. They love the optics, right? It's all that Saul Alinsky fucking bad faith optics stuff, where you're just creating situations that make other people look bad, and you just keep doing that. And so, look, if you're dealing with people that are agitating that way, you cannot throw a 75-year-old man on the ground in front of the cameras. It looks awful.
Even if you look at the video, let me see if I can find it again.
But if you spun him around and zip tied him, I'm not saying that looks great either, but it's a lot better than it looking like you cracked his fucking head open.
But even if you look at that video, they're not really shoving him to the ground.
I know. I'm happy to accept for the sake of argument. Look, let's accept for the sake of argument again that he's a bad guy. It doesn't matter.
In the incident, which happened
because it looks awful. It looks bad.
See, that was a light push.
It doesn't matter.
Light push.
Yeah. No, standard operating procedure should have been to spin him around and zip tie him.
You know, I can actually agree with that. I really can. So on the topic earlier, Base Lindsay was saying a quote from Charles Krauthammer. I don't know if I pronounced that right. The Israelis look for terrorists. We look for tweezers.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
Well, yeah, because what they do is they track the people, whereas in the United States we don't track people as much. What we do is we just scan the baggage.
Oh my God! Do you have 9 fluid ounces of something? No. You're not allowed to have any more than 8. You're arrested.
Yeah,
right.
You're not getting on this flight, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the cavity search.
How dare you get that one extra fluid ounce? Because that's going to be the tipping point right there, my friend. I'll be right back.
Well,
guys.
it's absurd too because you could, for example, have a bar of soap. If the notion is I don't want to have a liquid because there could be a chemical compound or something in the liquid. Well, I can form an explosive into a bar of soap. It'll you can make a bit of plastic explosives or whatever look like a bar of soap. So what are you accomplishing with that?
That's true. Like, it is very, very easy to make explosives solid. Most explosives are solid, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure. Well, not even in my opinion. I'm pretty sure that they are.
Well, here's my standing theory on why we've had fewer terrorist attacks after 9/11. And that's because in the middle of 9/11, without the stupid politicians, without the FAA, the American people adapted. And the adaptation was on the last plane, where everyone realized, because people were able to get their phones to work enough that they could figure out that there was a pattern and that the two other planes had slammed into the towers. This is the third plane. And on the third plane, they learned that what their fate was to be. And the entire passenger population went DayZ on the terrorists.
Like, you're not deciding how I die. I am.
Well, if all you're going to do is crash me into a building, then what does the box cutter that you're holding over there mean? Yeah. I'm not going to survive when the building crashes. So I either stop you now and maybe get
lacerations.
You're holding nothing over me. What I know is that when you take this plane, you're going to crash into a building. So I'm not going to let you do it. So imagine strategizing a plane takeover scenario in the United States. Ignore the stupid cockpit protection door. Ignore the air marshals. Ignore whatever special training the pilots may have been given. If on 9/11 the passengers on all of those planes had known what was to be their fate, no planes would have crashed in any buildings. It never would have happened because the passengers on the plane would not have permitted it.
No.
Yeah.
And you don't have enough bullets. I mean, even if you had a gun, how many do you have? A belt of ammunition? There are 200 people on this plane.
Yeah, and they did it with box cutters.
Yeah, Grandma's going to strangle you with her pearl necklace.
With her oxygen tubing.
Yeah, exactly. You're screwed, man. So if you are some fellow that's thinking about doing a terrorist attack with an airplane, that was a one-shot deal. You do that once, and now anytime anybody gets anywhere near that shit going forward, the entire population on the plane
is immediately going to think that's it. Like, if they do what they're going to do, I'm going to die.
Right. So they're not going to just sit there meekly in their seats and let you do what you want, because what everybody was thinking prior to that was, this is a giant shit show, very inconveniencing. We're going to land in Cuba and then get let off, and then we're going to get a bunch of little coupons or whatever from the airline where they say sorry about your plane getting hijacked, says United Airlines. That's what was going through their heads in the first two planes. And they knew that wasn't what was going to happen. They were crashing into the building already. There's no time. The third plane, they knew. And that plane was supposed to crash into the Pentagon.
And it crashed in Somerset, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it crashed into a field somewhere because the passengers went DayZ on the hijackers, and the hijacking pilot basically realized that he had to crash the plane now, because if he didn't, they were going to rip him limb from fucking limb and take control of the plane. At which point it would be, I don't know, an accountant from Illinois sitting in the seat talking to ground control about how to land a fucking 747.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate of how it would have been.
And the Pentagon was not hit by an airplane. I got news for you.
On the topic of people dying, How long do you think it's going to be until Ghislaine Maxwell kills herself?
Not soon enough. Oh wait, did I say that?
No, like read.
Oh,
read the top.
you mean it gets sad?
Wait, who's Ghislaine Maxwell? I don't know who that is.
Epstein's partner, who finally got caught.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, they'll get sad real quick.
Yeah, real quick, unfortunately, because she's got all sorts of secrets.
Especially if they're about a certain couple that we're not going to mention, whose name just happens to rhyme with Minton.
Damn it, that was supposed to be how I ended stream. I forgot about that. It was supposed to be, I have information that will lead to the arrest. And that information is, and then I end stream.
It just cuts off.
That was supposed to be how
anyway.
I'm supposed to do it. And I forgot.
That can be a formulaic sign off. You're about to end, and you go, "Oh, by the way, here's some extra information on the apps," and then just cut it.
No, that would be too convenient.
So yeah, I do honestly think Ghislaine has a lot of information that's going to be very juicy, and a certain high-profile individual is not going to let her talk, or do the damnedest to not let her talk.
Yeah, and the same sort of circumstances will apply too. That happened with Epstein. They're going to have some kind of a security check. The cameras are going to stop working all of a sudden. You know, it's going to be a twofer. Things that are astronomically odds against.
There needs to be a couple federal marshals that are just with her all the time.
Yeah, I don't.
You got to create a situation where if they want to kill her, what they got to do is they got to go through a couple federal marshals.
Right.
I honestly don't understand why Trump just didn't have his own people protecting Epstein.
No one thought that this was going to happen. No one took it seriously.
Oh, I thought for sure it was going to happen, and lo and behold, it happened.
Sure.
So maybe Trump will, send his own trusted people in to take care of this matter.
Only
yeah, I mean, it's going to be Barr that has to do that.
Yeah, it would most certainly clear up that whole, how these fucking Marxists and Antifa are like, oh, Trump took a flight on Epstein's jet once. So clearly, he's the one who killed Epstein.
Oh, obviously.
Did he even, though?
Yeah. He was on the log once, but he didn't go to the island.
Oh, well, so he got on the
basically
plane, but he didn't go to the rape island? Where the hell did he go then?
Yeah, Epstein was probably just like, oh, hey, you're going to New York? That's where I'm headed. Get on my plane, bro. I got you. I don't remember the exact details. It was a little while ago,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike Clinton, Bill of the Bill variety, who had several logs on that charter.
So, yeah, it was from Palm Beach to Newark.
There you go.
That's where Trump got flown to. He got flown to Newark.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there is an underage rape island in Newark.
It's like, who the fuck goes to Newark?
Well, it's on the way to New York.
Where he lives, yeah. He probably just caught a train or a bus there.
Yeah.
No, not even a bus. Just caught a limo or a taxi.
You got a private plane flight from Palm Beach, where he was, to Newark, and then from there he had other arrangements to get himself into Manhattan or wherever he wanted to go.
Epstein was probably like, hey, let's talk business. How about you come on my plane? I'll give you a ride on the way to where you're going. That'd be my guess. You don't know how these things go. You're not there. All we can say for certain, though, is he didn't go to the rape island.
Right. No, he went to Newark.
Which, a certain someone with the initials BC had several logs of going to Rape Island. In fact, I believe there was even a painting that was commissioned on Rape Island with the certain individual in a dress.
Not true.
What? That wasn't true?
Well, no. Epstein does have the painting of Bill Clinton in a blue dress. But that painting was in no way commissioned by Epstein himself. It was made by a female New York artist, and she sold it at an art auction gallery thing. And she had no idea who she sold it to, and she didn't realize that Epstein owned the paint, had purchased her painting. Epstein may not have actually even bought it. It may have been like a friend of Epstein who bought it and then gave it to him. Epstein apparently had a sense of humor, and he enjoyed kind of perverse things that he could hang on walls. So he thought it was funny to have a picture of Bill Clinton in a dress on his wall.
No, he probably thought it was funny, and he was like, "Oh, like his plan was, hey, the next time Bill's over, I'm gonna show him this. He's gonna think it's hilarious."
Perhaps, I don't know.
That'd be my guess. It's just assumption here. I'll give you that.
Well, there's all kinds of weird stuff around Epstein. So there was the Florida prosecutor that gave Epstein the sweetheart deal the first time he got off.
Mm-hmm.
And he was up for some kind of position in the Trump administration, and it came out his interactions with Epstein as part of the review, whether you appoint somebody to this high place. And spoiler alert, he was disqualified. But
no shit.
one of
Really?
his people saw that and they're like, "This is a little sordid, sir."
Well, I mean, on top of the fact he was barred from Mar-a-Lago.
But that's Epstein. But the prosecutor, I don't think, had any was barred at all from Mar-a-Lago. But the prosecutor, when asked why he gave Epstein the sweetheart deal, he said that a man came to him and told him that Epstein was owned by intelligence. And
I do remember hearing about that now.
That's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, I'm not saying whether it happened or it didn't happen.
Quote.
I'm saying that's what that guy said. Now, that's a very bizarre statement to make for a variety of reasons. I mean, the first is that it's just unusual that something like that would happen. But it does happen on occasion that somebody held by the FBI or the local police or whatever is approached by another element of the government, and they say, "Oh, this guy's useful in some other thing we're doing, let him go." And there's reciprocity on that. But
there's usually some evidence.
There's a paper trail.
Yeah.
Right?
There was no paper trail in this case.
Man walks into my office and he says, "Let him out because he's, spooky, owned by intelligence." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I guess I'll just let this guy out," right? No, you'd say, "Okay, well, you say intelligence.
Let me see your credentials."
Not only you're going to give me your credentials, and then I'm going to call your superior.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get some kind of a document to back and forth. The governor may get involved. Right? If I'm a prosecutor, do I have personal authority to release a suspect onto the streets just because somebody from the CIA or whatever comes and talks to me? No, that's not my mandate.
There's a whole SOP for that sort of thing, and the guy did not follow it in the slightest.
Right, and if you're a lawyer, you think you don't follow some kind of SOP? You think if you're a state prosecutor, you don't have an SOP? You are.
For those who don't know, SOP is standard operating procedure.
Yeah, you're continuously following some kind of protocol or set of conditions continuously.
Yeah.
T's to cross, I's to dot all the time.
Look, from the E1 private in the military all the way to the goddamn president, there is an SOP for goddamn near everything.
Sure. Absolutely.
And this is one of those instances where this guy was like, the FBI told me, or someone told me he was part of intelligence, but didn't follow the SOP in the slightest bit. Should be
shadowy persons unknown.
Should be completely disbarred.
It could have been three midgets in a trench coat. Yeah. You have no idea who the hell this is.
Now, I do have another instance of some very, very fishy stuff. I don't know a lot about it. For what little I have looked into, and I haven't completely looked into it. This is the Facebook live stream. This guy, I'll be skipping forward because we're not watching the entire
I'm
half
always
hour.
I'm always terrified with these videos that the guy is going to just pan down suddenly and it's his dick. I can't tell you how many awful videos people throw at me, and it's just, and then it happens. It's like, God damn it. God damn it.
So basically, this guy, he's surrounded by law enforcement, and he is asking for a warrant, and they're not providing him with a warrant. I'll give him that. And this is an example of where I looked up this dude's name, Jason Paul Arnold, who's surprisingly alive at the end of this. He was told by the courts he wasn't allowed to own firearms because he had a temper.
What?
Was a danger to society is what they put it as, and he admitted he had a temper. But that's like, Moonshock, you're not allowed to own firearms because of future crimes.
Yeah, that's like arresting somebody for something they haven't done yet, but because somehow they say you're gonna do it, oh, you're under arrest. We know what's gonna happen.
Well, you're walking down the street and you're walking awful close to that 7-Eleven. I feel like you're going to rob it.
Yeah, but if you look at the Constitution, it says the government shall make no law, for forbidding the ownership of a firearm, right?
Yeah.
Unless they get angry sometimes. Right.
Oh, clearly, yeah, they put that.
That was something like we put that in 1784 or whatever, or 86.
Yeah.
That was the original document. People put their little powdered wigs on, and they're like, okay, but what if they had to go to anger management? Oh, okay, no muskets for you.
So as they go through this thing, though, the guy, this guy here, he eventually brings up a warrant. I'm not sure how factual it is because the judge that signed it was a reverend, and then later brings up the name of another judge who Jason Paul Arnold has been going through the process of suing. Now let's say that this Mr. Arnold here, let's say he was in fact, he did something illegal, something that was unacceptable for him to do, and he was to appear in front of a judge. Well, this process was already going on where Mr. Arnold was suing this judge. So that sounds to me like a conflict of interest. Whether the judge was in the right or not, that is a conflict of interest, and he should go to one of his judge buddies and say, hey, this guy has done this. But he is suing me, so I cannot issue this warrant. Someone else is going to have to.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. There's different organizations you can go to. With lawyers, you try and get them disbarred, so you go to the Bar Association.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what you do with judges, but I think there's a bar of judges actually. And if you can show that a judge, in their opinion, is acting unethically, which in standards of the court for lawyers and particularly for judges, is anything that can even be construed is unethical. It doesn't necessarily, you don't have to prove that it's unethical. It just has to look bad. That's unethical for a judge.
Which is someone is actively suing them and they send a warrant out for them. That can be construed
that's slam and dunk. That's slam.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no, that's ridiculous.
So we can actually come to the end of this. Where is it? Right here. Is this where he's talking about it? No, this is before it. Hold on.
Call me another day and we'll drink a beer together.
So how many of these Keystone cops showed up for this guy?
This is Michigan, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, hey,
great.
I know where that is. I live here.
But how many of these goofbats are there? So like 3 cops, 4 cops?
There's these three here.
They're hiding behind the car. Is this guy like waving a gun around?
No, he's got a hammer. He's got a hammer.
Wow.
That's it. A hammer. And he told the cops, the only reason I have this hammer is because you said you're going to send the dog in. And I'm going to defend myself if a dog tries to attack me. I don't want to kill a dog, but, if you give me no option, I'm going to do it.
Right.
So there are 3 here. There are 3 over here, and I didn't quite count the ones that are over here.
So there's perhaps
There's at least 8
somewhere around 8 or 9. Sure. Okay.
that have showed up. They're in full battle rattle, the helmet, the fucking vest, the ARs. Well, not even
Right.
ARs, the M4s. And the guy, he ends up putting the music on, and
Shot at me for what?
he puts the music on, he sits down. There's no talking anymore because the music's too loud, and right about now, they shoot him.
Thank you.
Oh, do they?
Shot at me.
They just missed twice.
What, with a bullet? They're shooting at him with bullets?
Yeah, with bullets.
Go ahead. I'll take it. Do it, please.
And here's where the live stream ends. They shot some more. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Did they kill him?
No, he is surprisingly alive.
Oh, okay.
And whether that judge is completely innocent or not, dude's suing him. Like,
No.
that judge is not innocent at that point when he sends a warrant out to someone who's suing him.
No.
I mean, if he's only got a hammer, then go in there with your tasers and shock his ass. Then you don't have to shoot him with
Well,
a real bullet.
regarding
You don't know
SOP,
that he doesn't have a firearm. I'll give
This
them
is
that
true.
credit, at least.
well,
True.
no, the SOP with the police, as far as escalation of force, is that the police are always allowed to use 1 step of force above whatever somebody else has. So if you have a knife,
That's
I
true.
can shoot you if I'm a police officer.
Right.
So the hammer, if taken to be a deadly weapon, even a melee deadly weapon, does actually allow them to shoot you. Now, if you are just completely unarmed, there's nothing in your hands, then no, SOP is they can't shoot you. However, they can hit you with a stick, or
taser
tase
you.
you, or something like that,
Or gas you.
which is 1 step above what you have. So when you have
Or
just,
beanbag you.
correct, well, maybe yeah.
The beanbag's kind of iffy, but I'm pretty sure they
Yeah,
get away
the
with it.
beanbag, I think, would actually require that I have something in my hands.
I'm pretty sure they can get away with that, though, considering it's non-lethal.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing here is that they are not obliged to maintain the same threat level of the person that they're arresting. The
Which
cops
they
are allowed to
shouldn't be.
use 1 step above your threat level. So, and step 1 on the threat level, this is how the police look at it, is disobeying an order. So the instant you disobey an order, they can put hands on you. That's 1 step above, because what you're doing at your level of disobeying with your words is you're just saying something. So 1 step above that is what they're allowed to do, and so they can grab you. If you fight back or whatever, they can hit you with a stick, something like that. If you have a knife in your hands or any kind of a weapon that can be construed as a deadly weapon, they can shoot you.
Yeah.
Which
And
a
that's-
hammer could be a deadly weapon very easily.
The hammer is that actually can be argued to allow them to shoot you.
Someone wasn't even trying to bust my skull open, and I don't know if that shows up. See those 2 rectangular scars?
Huh.
That was the claw part of a hammer. I was little, and I tried to scare my brother
Oh no. You
while he
succeeded.
was hammering something.
Bad idea.
Yeah, I intended on going up behind him and going boo, and it went buh.
The rest is history.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
God.
remember what happened after that.
That's awful.
Yeah, but that can be a deadly weapon, and that was someone who wasn't even like swinging with force. They were just pulling it back.
Mm-hmm.
You can just imagine the damage someone could do if they were swinging with force.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that is a deadly weapon. Can be a deadly weapon and should be considered a deadly weapon in all circumstances.
Yeah. No, so that's an issue.
The issue I run into, though, in this, again, is what I've said a couple times. The judge was being sued by the guy.
Yeah.
You cannot issue a warrant against someone who is suing you. You can't. That is 100% an abuse of power.
I agree, but I guess there's two different ways of looking at it. Are you going to stand on your rights and fight it in the court? Because if you cite that in a court of law, that would probably be a pretty strong argument if you can show that man's name on the warrant. So you just kind of say, sure, fine, whatever. I'm going to comply, but this is not going to stand. And then you go, and then you have to go.
I would have just gone with it.
That's way A. Way B is you treat it like you're getting attacked by the cannibals in Mad Max, where you're going to go down in a hail of gunfire. If you want to go full Waco, do that. But you can't have it both ways at the same time. You can't go Waco and then talk about your rights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the guy wasn't even like going full Waco. He was just like, I'm not going with you. That's it. He wasn't firing back at the police. He wasn't attacking the police.
Yeah, but it is resisting arrest then.
It is. I'll give you that. Resisting arrest.
And he was brandishing a deadly weapon. That's the hammer.
Deadly melee weapon.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a step down from a deadly ranged weapon.
True. But again, given the SOP of the police, they can shoot you.
Listen, I've got to utilize the latrine, so I will be right back.
Okay.
He has to utilize it.
Right.
No, I'm just up to here with all of the stupid that's going on. And you have the thing that really pisses me off a lot now is you have all these people that I mean, don't get me wrong, having devices is nice. Technology is great. But if you would rather stand there with a phone in your hand and film somebody getting their ass kicked or some bad thing happening instead of actually going in and helping somebody, like, I don't know, like the people used to, then I have a big problem with that. What happened to the niceties of humanity? What happened to people actually doing things that would benefit another? Don't be an ass and just say, hey, look, I'm going to sit here and get good footage because this could go on YouTube or this could get me famous. So you're allowing somebody to potentially get killed for the sake of filming them so that you can potentially get something in the future.
Well, I guess I'm confused. Are you talking about the Floyd murder?
I'm just talking in general.
Well, okay, but I mean, or killing or whatever we want to call when he died.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just talking.
Well, what are we talking about then? Be specific here then.
Well, okay, so a couple of years ago, I actually watched. We were going through the smaller town, and there was a fight going on, and this person. I mean, this was obviously a losing battle for this other person. And he's getting his ass kicked. He was just getting creamed. And then you have at least a dozen people that are just standing there with phones watching this guy getting his ass kicked. And there's no weapons involved. This is just hand to hand. Instead of actually going over there and pulling them apart and saving this guy, who knows what kind of injuries, they're just standing there. I'd rather film it and then actually help this person.
You talking about David Dorn?
No. I'm just talking something I saw a couple of years ago. What happened to people wanting to help others instead of actually helping themselves and say, hey, look, I can get great video if I shoot these people, kicking the ass of somebody else.
So are you talking about watching people being crazy in the riots?
No, I'm talking about
what is inspiring the statement now then?
Because I see it too often. You see too often. Do you see people getting, watching other people and saying, look, you guys need to just stop. There's no need for you to fight. There's no need for you guys to do whatever you're doing, especially if it's a losing fight on somebody else's behalf. I mean, would you rather stand there, and this is no law enforcement, just two people. Would you rather stand there and film one person kicking the crap out of somebody, knowing that he's going to lose, and just stand there and film it? Or would you actually try to help this person and, hey, look, maybe I should intervene and stop this fight before it gets worse? Maybe
Can I do both?
I hear you, but what if I don't have any affection for either participant?
Never mind.
What if I'm just watching two retards attack each other?
Nah, then my point is moot. Never mind.
Hey man,
I mean,
I'm not trying
look,
to.
I'm not
trying to move the
judging.
point. I'm just saying, like you see this on the street all the time, where you see some people that are acting like children, and they lose their shit, and if they behave themselves, they back off. And usually, well, not usually, but sometimes these people are willing combatants. You know, they're interested in engaging each other. You're seeing this a lot with these protests, where you get two idiots who are determined to share their views by cracking each other over the heads with bricks.
Right.
And what position do I have in that argument?
None.
I mean, I'm
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
it's just
happy. I'm
random
kind of
people
happy
he
to let
doesn't
them
know.
just.
I hear where you're coming from. I just have a problem with watching, just seeing these people doing this.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. Like, one thing that really bothered me in this instance of, hey, let's record this person instead of helping them. David Dorn, perfect example. Hey, this guy is dying right in front of me. Let me go ahead and record a video and complain about him dying. 'Cause I'm sure you're familiar with David Dorn, right?
I am not.
Will?
David Dorn? I don't know him. I keep in mind I'm awful with names.
All right, early on in the actually here, let me show it. Let me see if I can't find a short video of it.
Hey, y'all seen that shit, man? Damn, my thumb, because
They even gonna show it in this?
come on, they just
Oh,
killed
there
me,
he
man.
is. That's David Dorn during the Black Lives Matter.
Please, cuz.
Wow.
OG,
Black Lives Matter protest. He was a retired sheriff who was
OG,
protecting his friend's
OG,
job.
come on, stay with me,
Oh,
OG.
now I know. I remember him now.
Stay
And they're
with
just
me,
filming him.
Stay
Yeah.
with me, OG. Come on, OG. Come on, OG. Come on, OG. Stay with me. Come on, OG.
Love you for
Come
staying
on,
with
OG.
him. Are you
Come
fucking
on,
kidding
OG.
me?
Stay with me. Come on, OG.
Call the goddamn
Come on, OG.
ambulance.
Come on, OG. Come on, OG. Damn, man. Over some TVs, cuz. Over some TVs.
And this guy talking,
Real. There's somebody great.
the way the guy's talking, he really pisses me off. I just want to
Well,
do absolutely nothing and because I'm
What
a
if-
nice person.
what if he's a retard?
Yeah. He's
I
like,
mean, that's what he sounds like. He sounds like a retard.
Yes,
he's like, hey, what's the matter with you? You're not doing anything. Well, I'm also not doing anything.
what you doing, cuz? What you doing,
Yeah.
cuz?
Like, what the fuck, man? The dude needs medical attention. I don't honestly think medical attention could have gotten there soon enough to actually save the guy, even if he were to go, I'm ending this live stream and calling 911 and called 911. But like the fact that he just wants to yell at everyone else.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? Do something.
Well, and did you see all the icons on the right hand side of his thingy, like where the chat was? All those little hearts. That's all people liking the shit,
Yeah.
watching this and saying, "Oh, this is awesome! This is awesome." Are you people completely? Have you lost your fucking minds?
There's a lot of Lord of the Flies stuff going on these days.
Oh, especially with the CHAZ and the chop.
Yeah.
2 days.
Oh yeah.
2 days and they ran out of food and they had a warlord take over.
They also had some the LARPing continued. So I mean, obviously, the entire project was a big Marxist LARP, right?
Mhm.
It was a Marxist God, what do you call that? Like a cosplay. It was like Marxist cosplay. Everybody shows up, and
cosplay,
you had like the guy who set up the garden, which was
God, that pathetic.
yeah, but the garden. People look at that and they say, oh well, it's just a statement. It's like, well, of course it's just a statement.
How are you going to tell me?
The entire thing is about that.
How are you going to tell me this is just a cosplay?
Well, and then we had superheroes show up, and then because they got bored, one of them became a supervillain.
Didn't this guy become the supervillain? I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure
remember.
he did.
And I think he was like just robbing people.
Yeah.
And then the people that were to stop him from robbing had to be the other guys. So yeah, it's crazy. Here's the real thing, though. You know what killed the CHAZ? Really killed it?
The CHAZ itself?
No. They threatened the mayor's house.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That was when it and that tells you everything you need to know about the political sincerity of her administration in that city.
Yeah. Hey, it's fine as long as you're messing with other people's shit. I don't care. But you mess with my shit, we're sending the National Guard in.
Right.
Yeah.
So her house gets threatened, and suddenly the police get called in. But
Yep.
people's homes are threatened. Their businesses are robbed, and they face extortion from mobs of people. That's fine. But she gets her home threatened. Oh,
Can't have that.
no. Exactly. So we had a similar situation to this in I'm from Los Angeles, for those that are not aware, with our traffic cameras, and they put these things in. There was no.
Oh, puppy's took off. I got to switch cams again.
There's no democratic mandate for the traffic cameras. They didn't have a poll of the city and say, hey, does everybody want to have these obnoxious traffic cameras? The city council just did it. And so we had lots of polling information that showed that they were incredibly unpopular, which means you don't have a democratic mandate. They didn't care. They're like, well, we're the city council. We do what we want. And we said, well, why are you doing it? And they said, well, health and safety. Oh, really? So are you putting the cameras in places where people are having a lot of accidents in the city of Los Angeles? Like, no, we're putting the cameras in places where there's high traffic, but actually it's very safe. Oh, that's an interesting pattern, considering you care about health and safety, right? Not just revenue collection. And
I've got a meme for this.
So these things get a reputation for being rigged and fallacious. And what happens is the judges in the city start writing to the newspaper, and they say, hey, by the way, I've had a bunch of these traffic camera tickets hit my courtroom, and I basically think these are all bunk now. And if anybody wants to fight their traffic ticket, come to my courtroom. I will rubber stamp dismiss this charge against you.
Wow.
And you won't have to pay it, but you do have to fight it in court. Come into my courtroom, and we'll just throw it out.
Unbelievable.
There's some bullshit too.
So what this then led to, because he wasn't the only judge that did this, I think all of them did this. Suddenly the revenue from the traffic cameras went negative because there's a cost to maintain the cameras, right. And they were making less money in revenue from the cameras than it cost to maintain them. Ouch. And so after fighting this thing for about 6-8 months, something like that, the instant the revenue dropped below the cost of the system, they pulled the cameras within 7 days.
Huh.
They didn't, and so that's the point of my little rant here. They didn't care about democracy. They didn't care about health and safety. What they cared about was the money.
Right.
Full stop.
Or sometimes all they care about is making Orange Man look bad. For instance, the meme that I created that fits the BLM protest perfectly.
Oh.
It's on the screen.
Oh, right. The coronavirus lockdown were excessive as fuck. Democrat mayors hate black people and want them to die of coronavirus.
Oh, let's not forget Gretchen here in Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about the
Gretchen Bitchmer.
let me see.
Democrat.
You talking about this
Oh yeah.
kind of shit?
Oh, that's in Western Oregon. Isn't that in Oregon?
I don't know, but I just know that there were at least a few counties that instituted mask mandates only to white people.
I believe there is a meme for this particular council member. Let me see if I can find this person.
Really?
Let's see if we can find who it was in this article.
Well,
Board of Commissioners, all right, for
This would
Oregon.
be-
Yeah, it was Oregon.
this would be Claire Hall.
Yeah, the one that was originally what hall?
So here you go. Here's the meme for that.
Where you tossed it? DMs.
I threw it in Discord. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. That's the one.
Yeah. So this is
God.
this is the person. Now tell me if that face on the right is not the face of mental illness.
Man,
Holy shit.
you know, we're touching on the topic of transgenderism. And my only problem with transgenderism is that the other side isn't allowed to be heard. We're probably going to get banned if anyone from high up in YouTube hears this portion of the stream. The other side is not allowed to be heard, and there is regret story after regret story after regret story all over the internet.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's hate speech. You know?
Sure. And the thing is until relatively recently, psychology. I mean, and by recently, I mean this was current as of like 5 years ago. They recognize this as basically body image dysphoria.
Yeah.
So body image, for those unaware, body image dysphoria is where somebody sees something as wrong in their own body, whatever the hell it is, and they have a compulsion to make it conform to their desire. And so that leads to some weird stuff where people will start cutting their fingers off.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll go into the extreme body mods. So you've seen those people that get those crazy tattoos that cover their whole body and install like horns and spikes in their head,
Yeah.
and split their tongue halfway through and all that kind of stuff.
That's gross.
Pretty much all those people have body image dysphoria.
Yeah.
So, for example, there is a transgender dragon lady, I think. Let me see. Transgender dragon lady. And she got a lot of plastic surgery done to look like a dragon.
That one?
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah, so here's a YouTube video. Here, I guess I'll drop this in stream here. Oh, you found her. You
Yeah.
found her.
I said that one.
Yeah, here's a YouTube video of her. I don't know if that's.
Oh, you topped it in private chat.
Look, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just.
Oh
I
my
don't know where
God!
to
Why
put
do you
things.
got to make everything difficult?
Yeah.
Who is Tiamat the Dragon Lady?
The Dragon Lady
Is that a Jeopardy answer?
Right. So the thing is that from a psychological perspective.
Okay. All right. Let's test this out. Let's see how well this works. My Google Assistant doesn't like to work anymore, so I don't know how to get my Google Assistant to work anymore. I imagine it's because I'm a conservative. Okay, Google. You know, I figured it might work because, hey, I'm saying this doesn't work anymore. Because you know how technology is. Oh, that guy said something. Let's make him a liar.
It's the technology is driven by the wee demons. So you have
Yeah.
to be careful.
Let me see if maybe it's because I don't have a widget on there. I don't know. I haven't really fucked with it much. I haven't really cared much. I just yell at my phone for a little bit, and I'm like, fuck it. I don't care anymore.
What are we doing with Google? What is this?
I want to see if that's what the same thing it says. I don't even have the Google fucking thing on here. Wait a second. Okay. Boom. We'll toss it there. Okay, Google. Okay, Google. Yeah, nothing. Nothing. So remove it. I don't give a fuck. I hate Google. Google's fucking cancer.
Like, okay, Google, you're a stupid cunt. What did
So
you just
here
say? to me?
is a. Oh, it's not letting me do that. Lame. Stupid thing.
What?
Copy. Huh? Oh, one moment. Here we go. Oh, I swear.
What's up, useless? Hi, Luna.
All right, let me just get this. Copy image. And
Sora
here.
said, like the puzzle man off of Ripley's Believe It or Not. About
Yeah.
the. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you type in transgender dragon lady into Google image search, you'll see a bazillion. It's the same chick.
Yeah.
Every single one of these. But the thing is that from
I'm not afraid of misgendering. It's the same dude.
from an objective standpoint here, what is the difference between somebody who is a transgender dragon person and someone who starts saying that they are X, Y sex that they're not?
Right.
And so if you look at all of the things that are kind of defining the issue, the only difference at the end of the day is what the person wants to become. Otherwise, everything else is the same. And so it seems likely from that perspective to then say, well, the transgenderism might just be body image dysphoria that is presenting, in this case, is a desire to flip gender. And we know that body image dysphoria is just a mental illness that should not be indulged.
No, I'm not even saying don't indulge it. I'm just saying educate the person prior to. So, like, a lot of the regret stories are, I went to my psychologist, and my psychiatrist said, "Oh yeah, you're actually a woman trapped in a man's body." That is a big problem right there. As opposed to them saying, all right, you have gender dysphoria and you feel like a woman trapped in a man's body. And then it goes even further, because as it goes down the line, they get to the point where they're like, oh, here are some possible pictures of what it's going to look like once we finish the surgery. And then it gets to that really ugly one at the end, the one that is the average. And they're like, oh man, I don't want it to look like that. They're like, oh no, that's very rare and that hardly ever happens. And they fucking lie to these people over and over again. Like, that's the problem. It's not the problem of transgenderism. It's not the problem of letting people be who they are. It's the problem of fucking lying to them.
Yeah.
That's where I draw the line. That's where I am like, this is fucking awful.
Well, let's take a whole lot of other mental illnesses and ask the question of what would happen if we started pretending that was normal and okay. So let's say you've got somebody who has multiple personality disorder or something, something, a very colorful and obvious mental condition.
Well,
when you've got it.
Let me hold that for 1 second. I am not saying pretend it's normal.
I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying that's
pretending it's okay. Sure. All right.
Well,
I'm fine with that.
We don't want to indulge it.
Like,
so if somebody is has these multiple personalities going on, you don't want to treat them all like different people and make that out like this is a sustainable way of living. You want to try and correct that if you possibly can make the person healthy. You want to move them in that direction. And it's not helpful in that situation to say, well, we're not all the same, and that person just happens to have 18 different random personalities that trigger whenever, I don't know, they eat dairy. You can't do that. You're not helping them. They can't live that way. They can't hold a job. They can't maintain relationships with people. They're just going to be sad and lonely, and they're going to destroy themselves. And you could say, oh, well, you give them support. There's no amount of support I can give this person short of putting them in a mental ward. That's the only thing I can do. If you want to talk about support.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, as long as you're an adult, legally an adult, you have your choices. You're allowed to make them. Whether they're right or wrong, you are allowed to make them. That's where I'm like, sure, educate them, inform them, and let them do what they're going to do.
I'm fine with that so long as it doesn't lead to tens of thousands of homeless people who are insane, addicted to whatever the street narcotic is, and shitting all over my park benches. Because unfortunately, a consequence of deinstitutionalization, which for those not familiar with it, was the broad reduction in the ability to put people in mental institutions, and what that led to was that an enormous number of people that, say, in the 1950s would have been in an insane asylum are today walking around on the street. And you say, well, that's nice. People should be free. Only those people, then what happens is they fall into criminal behavior often, frequently because they're confused or they're desperate. And then that crazy person is now in the prison system, where they're surrounded by actual hardened criminals. But they're not a hardened criminal per se. They're just crazy. And so then think of all the nasty stuff you've seen in prison culture, where there are these flexes that are going on, where they're trying to intimidate each other into respecting each other, not crossing certain lines, establishing boundaries. Well, a crazy person is not going to get those cues, and they're not going to follow them even if they do get them, at least not reliably. Which means in this situation where you got a bunch of dangerous people who all have shivs and God knows what else, and then you're going to get this person prancing through the middle of that minefield, and you're not helping this person. You know, first off, this notion of freedom didn't happen there in the prison. They would have been much better off in an insane asylum.
Okay, so that's an extreme example. So that is an example that does and would happen. I'm not discounting that. But let's say you're someone who drinks an entire gallon of whiskey every single night.
Right.
You go to work, you do your 9 to 5, you get off work, you drink an entire gallon of whiskey, you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, hungover as shit, you go to work, you do just fine at work every single day. So you're an adult. That is obviously, it is horrible for you. It is bad for you, and you shouldn't do it. What should I be able to tell that person? Hey, you're not allowed to drink that anymore.
Well, okay, so there's a couple. So let's go back to the original context. So in the 1950s, if you were an alcoholic, there were two main mechanisms that would get you in an insane asylum. The first would be if you were not a functional drunk. So you basically can't take care of yourself. You're just drinking and destroying yourself. And you're not going to work. You're not paying for things. You're not keeping any appointments. You know, you're just a complete mess. And so in that case, yeah, they put you in an asylum. And the notion wouldn't be, you know, we're going to lobotomize you or you're going to stay in the asylum forever. The idea is you're going to stay here until you clean up. We're going to talk to you about it. We're going to maybe help you do something to try and not wind up here again, and then we're going to let you go. And that was generally speaking, that was a government-provided service. So think about the amount of money that people spend trying to get themselves off alcohol and whatnot. You would get help. What's going on, Uni?
Iffy about storage. I got no problem with that. Mrs. Uni wants to join in the voice chat.
Sure.
Go for it.
More merit.
I'll send it to you.
I mean, it's only if it's okay with the other two.
Of course,
I'm fine with it.
By all
Of
means.
course it is.
Big mental health. So
Of course it is.
I have a vet that is.
Can't hear you. The fuck?
We've got no problem. We've got the more the merrier,
Absolutely.
right?
I sent her the thing. So that was Mrs. Uni, not Sora Luna.
I know.
Okay.
I wasn't sure because it's just Luna. Because
So-
Luna Lupa and Sora Luna, either one could just be Luna. And I've never seen her name as just Luna on YouTube before.
So that's the first thing that would get you in there. The second thing that would get you in there is there might be an intervention from your family
Mm-hmm.
where the
People
person
who care about you want better for you.
your wife, your children, your extended family, your friends would come together, and there would be a document that they could sign, and that document, along with an evaluation from some sort of mental health professional, could get you involuntarily committed, and that again wouldn't necessarily, in the case of alcoholism, that wouldn't be forever. It would be to get you cleaned up and then sit there and talk about things and get you out of there. Wouldn't be a forever situation. The people that are going to be in the asylum forever are the people that are incurably insane, it's unfortunate. I mean, there's some people that are incurably insane.
Yeah.
And what are you to do? You let them out in the street? They can't take care of themselves. Imagine what you would want for yourself. Apply the golden rule. Let's say that you're insane. Now, as an insane person, when you're insane, you may want to be out. But as a sane person, if I inform you that you will be insane in the future.
I know we're banned. We just saw a dog butthole.
If you know you're going to be insane, wouldn't you want somebody to take care of you in the event that you're going to lose your mind?
Here's my problem with this. It feels, at least to me anyway, I could be wrong and I could be misinterpreting this. It feels to me like you're kind of labeling all mental illnesses under one giant umbrella of they need to be locked up.
No.
Because there are a bunch of different scenarios where there are people that have some mental illnesses that are still completely functional.
Right.
And then there are those ones that do very well with having moral support from family and friends. And then there are those that need medicated, not necessarily locked up, but medicated.
Right. So just to limit this, because I understand there's a slippery slope concern when you talk about asylums.
Which slippery slopes do most certainly happen. You see that in the news all the time now. And they're still denied after it's proven right to have happened.
So
but
a slippery slope is an unbounded condition, right? Because it can go. The reason it's slippery slope is because it can potentially define something that's extreme. And so to limit this to what I feel is reasonable, and you tell me if you agree. What I'm referring to are, I think something like 30% of the U.S. prison population has been diagnosed by the prison system itself as mentally ill. I'm thinking those people, a significant number of them, probably should have been committed, should be committed.
Here's the thing. Mentally ill, as far as the prison concerns, could cover a whole wide range. There could be classifying people who are depressed. They could be classifying people who have like on stage of Alzheimer's or like multiple personality or ADD. That's all mental illness. Or
she does bring up a good point. Are you discussing, are you saying that the prison population says they're mentally ill and that is why they're in prison? Or are you saying the prison population, the prison is saying they are mentally ill?
It's a fair point.
And they're in prison.
So, I mean, what I believe you're talking about is a situation where somebody has a relatively minor mental problem, and the reason why they're in prison is because they're just actually a criminal. And in that case, I agree with you. That person probably should go to prison. I don't know. Maybe they should go to the mental facility after they get convicted for the crime. I think that's sensible as well.
Part of the problem is there are those who develop mental illness while in prison because they are already susceptible, and that type of environment, if you already have a fragile brain, is going to cause mental illness.
Okay. But then we also have people that find themselves in unfortunate situations because they are actually incapable of functioning in society.
Those ones, I thought those ones usually had to be tested during trial if they found that there was something lacking with their ability to determine right or wrong or their ability to control their emotions. So they have to be tested. And if they are found to be mentally ill and not able to defend themselves or not able to control their emotions, they get sent to the mental places, not the prison.
All right, so two things with that. So two things. First off, love. Base Lindsay says hi.
Hi.
And the second thing is that's if you have a good enough lawyer to prove that.
Well, there's an extra thing here. The definition of insanity by the legal system is its own universe. So the way the courts determine insanity for their own purposes is whether or not you're so insane that you don't know the difference between right and wrong. So, for example, if your dog starts talking to you and your dog introduces itself to you as Satan, Lord of Darkness.
That would be awesome, but okay.
And you're having a conversation with your dog, and your dog encourages you to kill people. And you think, dog, that's a good argument. And so you then go on a murder rampage based on the good arguments from the Lord of Darkness as through the avatar of your dog. The court system would then ask you, did you know that the thing that you were doing was illegal? And if the gentleman in question, in the determination of the court, knew that what he was doing was illegal, the court is not questioning whether or not he was hallucinating. The court is not questioning whether he's hearing voices. The court doesn't actually care about any of that. What the court cares about is whether you're so crazy that you didn't know that what you were doing was illegal. And if they determine, this is a general rule, that you knew it was illegal and you sided with that, the court's determination is, well, you knew what we were doing, that going against us was against our law, and you chose to go with the Lord of Darkness. So, assuming that that Satan was real, you weren't crazy, you actually were talking to the devil.
Well, let's make this even more convoluted.
What you did was
even more convoluted.
No, but I'm trying to get at something. How crazy you can. Wait a minute. No, Uni, let me finish. Hold on. Uni, come on. Uni,
just let him finish.
Let's make it more convoluted. The dog's identifying as Jesus Christ telling you to kill people.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is that you can be, from a clinical standpoint, extremely disturbed. And from the court standpoint, you're not crazy enough to be innocent by argument of insanity because you weren't insane enough to not know the difference. That's what the court is looking for. They're looking for whether or not you had agency in your decision. And so long as if the court judges that you knew enough to know that what you were doing was wrong and you decided to do it anyway, then they're going to throw the book at you.
So then, couldn't I argue that if I was Antifa? Like, hey, what I was doing was right because it was to help other people, even when it was hurting other people.
No, because the court's going to basically the court's version of did you right or wrong. They're going to ask you, did you know that what you were doing was illegal? That's their determination.
Fair. Okay. Fair.
And so if the Antifa guy thinks that it's in the interest of the great Marxist revolution for them to do something crazy, but they knew damn well that they were violating the law of where the hell they were, then the judge under the U.S. legal system that they're going to say is you're not crazy enough. Boom, hammer goes down.
So you're saying they can definitely plead ignorance because they're dumb enough to not know the law?
No, you can't plead ignorance either.
Yeah, ignorance is not a defense.
No,
I appreciate
in
that
the
it
case
sounds...
of attempting, in the instance of attempting an insanity plea, they could plead ignorance because they clearly don't know the fucking law.
Let me put it this way. So, are you familiar with the concept in English common law and U.S. law of the reasonable man?
No.
Okay, this is like the core principle, actually, of our legal system is the notion of the reasonable man. And so the notion is, would a reasonable man in your situation know that that was illegal? Not whether you know it's illegal. Would a reasonable man know that that was illegal? And if a reasonable man would know that it's illegal, then the law is taken to basically be a pervasively understood concept. And
So
you
does that
can't,
mean
you can't claim ignorance of something that a reasonable man would know is illegal.
so does that
But who
mean if I'm
defines
walking,
reasonable?
if
court
I'm
does.
walking down the street and I
Mm.
spit on the sidewalk and I get a fine for it and I decide to fight it and say the reasonable man would not know that that is in fact illegal,
Sure,
would
exactly.
that hold up?
If the court decides, so for example, I'll give you an example of a legal thing working in your favor via this. Let's say the government has some esoteric law that they want you to follow that's buried
Like no
in subsection.
humping post.
I mean, it's something bizarre. It's something that no one has ever heard of. It doesn't come up. You could, in that case, plead ignorance of the law, and via the reasonable man, that would in fact stick. Ignorance, if it's reasonable to be ignorant, is an acceptable defense. Ignorance, if it is not reasonable to be ignorant, is not a defense. It's that reasonable man thing. And going further to your question, Luna, which I detected you were a little uncomfortable with this, it's also subject to jury trials. So if a jury of your peers determines that something is or is not reasonable, you can be either let off or held to account on the law on that basis. If you know the community hears that and they go, no, everybody knows that's a law, Daryl. Okay.
So,
Shut up.
like, let's say I decide in my state to, I'm sitting on a refrigerator that I happen to have in my front lawn
Right.
because it's getting ready to get taken away. And I'm just sitting there enjoying the day, and I start getting tired, so I start yawning and I lie down, and I end up taking a nap, and then the cops give me a fine for falling asleep on the refrigerator in my front lawn.
Right.
Which is actually a law in Pennsylvania.
Is it really?
I could use the reasonable man
Yes.
argument in that
Yes.
case.
Yes.
Why would that be illegal?
Exactly.
Right.
That is actually one of those laws, by the way.
Anything that you can argue is unreasonable in law basically ceases to be a relevant law. You have to argue that the court or the law as written is unreasonable, and you can get the law negated in your case at the very least. You can also get a precedent set where the law is just negated by the courts, where they'll send a little letter off to the legislature and say, by the way, this provision of this law is nullified, and we will not be enforcing it.
Yeah. So in that case, love, you could use the argument of, I'm not hurting anyone, and I just didn't know. I was enjoying the day, and tiredness crept up on me.
Not hurting anyone is not a good argument. I'm not saying that I don't care. Ethically, I understand what you're doing there.
I'm not hurting anyone, and I was just enjoying the day, and
what the court is going to look for is whether a reasonable man would think that was okay.
I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't be okay to just fall asleep in your front yard. It's not like you're in a public
refrigerator.
Place.
That's the argument.
It's specifically on a refrigerator, by the way.
That's actually part of the law?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yeah. That sounds like an unenforceable law. There's a lot of these. So
there are like no whaling in Ohio, for instance.
So let me go. Maybe you guys are interested in this. I'll break this in a little bit. So you guys have all said okay to those end user license agreements, the EULAs that are kind of everywhere.
Yeah, and no one ever reads.
No one ever reads them.
Bilbo Baggins.
They're like 60 pages. It's ridiculous. Those EULAs are generally speaking not enforceable against you unless the provision in the EULA is something you could assume, a reasonable man would assume is in the EULA. Do you hear what happened there? So, for example, if the EULA says you're not going to pirate my software, something like that,
sell it to someone else,
then that element
sell it to someone else. Yeah, even
then
sell
that
it to
then that element of the EULA would be enforceable. However, if it said on page 45 that you will hereafter agree to give Dave a banana on every other Tuesday, that will not be enforceable.
Or even that you are not allowed to view said material on
you
Tuesdays.
can't look at people. You can't look
hold
at
them
pictures
to
of
account for
bananas
that.
on Tuesdays. Yeah. However, it gets more interesting. If you are a large organization with a that's understood to have a legal department, so a major corporation, a government, some body with a bureaucracy, then it is reasonable to expect that organization to have read all 60 pages before agreeing to it. Therefore, frequently you can hold a corporation to some weird thing that was put on page 45, but you can't hold just Joe Blow on the street because he doesn't have a legal department. He's not reading this thing, and it's unreasonable. The reasonable man would not have read it, and having not read it, he's not going to agree. Also, this is why when companies, you see this particularly, with like rental agreements, that kind of stuff. Wherever there's a situation where the government or a corporation or something actually wants to hold you to something on page 45, what they will then do is they will require that you initial all the subsections in the document that they think are a little sticky, where they want to make sure that you've agreed to specifically that paragraph somewhere in the fucking document. And so by initialing page 45 on the EULA, which nobody does.
You agree that you've read page 45.
You've read that. Well, they don't just reference page 45, they reference a specific paragraph. If there are multiple paragraphs on page 45 that they want you to initial, they will have you initial multiple times on page 45.
That's so annoying.
And what you are certifying with every one of those initials is that you read that paragraph.
Isn't it that you read and understood?
Doesn't matter. It certifies that you read it.
No, because all the court's going to care about is would the reasonable man have understood this paragraph. So what you could then do, if you did initial that paragraph but you didn't understand it, you then have to have the language read by the judge to the court, and you then have to argue that the language in that paragraph is confusing. And
so
if the reasonable man would have been confused by the language in that paragraph, then you can get that paragraph nullified. Even
so
if you initialize,
if they had you initial a paragraph that was written in Old Aramaic,
yes,
you could probably throw that out.
Correct. Because it's not reasonable for the reasonable man to know how to speak Aramaic or have read it. The reasonable man would, in that case, be understood to just see that as a bunch of gobbledygook.
Interesting. Now, where did you learn this stuff?
I am an LA kid, and you may have heard that we are litigious people.
No.
So word on the street kind of shit. So basically, what I'm saying is
this is the wisdom of my people.
Basically, what I'm saying is if someone decides to use these sort of defenses and it does not work out, we are just using anecdotal information and therefore are not liable for your failures.
There's a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of things you can argue. I was just explaining an element here as relates to this notion of reinstitutionalization, of which I'm an advocate.
And I was just arguing that if someone has some ill shit go on, because even if it is legal, doesn't mean that, hey, they're not going to hold you to it, like as in the case of Ken and Karen.
But here's the thing about the whole reinstitutionalized thing and bringing all that stuff back. Some people don't do well in that type of environment either if it's not done correctly.
I agree. And certainly there were asylums that were really poorly run, where people would be getting taken care of very poorly. But it's a situation like, you look at the education system. There are schools where there are teachers that are sexually abusing their children.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say get rid of the public education system because they're pedophile teachers.
No, they need a better screening process.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and reform it. By the same token, I'm not going to say defund the police because George Floyd got choked to death. I'm going to say, okay, let's look at what went wrong here and see if we can come up with a reasonable fix to this that is possible.
Here's an idea: don't fight the police.
Well, certainly, Mr. Floyd had some responsibility for what happened there, but if the police need to change police procedure now and again to better conform with community needs, then so be it. But it does have to take into consideration the mandate of the police, which is to maintain law and order. So you can't put so many burdens on them that they can't do their job. It's an amazing fucking photo, by the way.
Yeah,
I love these people. Look at them. If you
the one thing that drives me up a fucking wall, though, I mean, I know they didn't do anything wrong, and I agree they shouldn't be subject to any punishments because they.
Why is she holding it like that?
Yes, that right there is my problem.
Is it really?
Yes.
Really? Why?
Because you should never have your finger over the trigger if you're not.
Unless you intend to shoot it.
Yes.
Unless you are intending to shoot it right then and there.
Sure, I understand the weapons discipline arguments that get drilled into you guys in the military and all that jazz.
I'm not even in the military.
But people that are afraid and defending their home and whatever, I don't know what kind of weapons training this woman has had. I suspect not a lot.
Look, I'm not saying punish her for it. I'm not saying punish her for it. I'm just saying this drives me crazy.
Sure, right? But look, if my mom, let's look at it like that, right? Let's say that this is your mom and your dad, and some people are going in to burn their house to the ground. It's a nice fucking house, by the way. I don't know if you've seen that house. They have this giant,
that's a very nice house, but it's also in a private area. So
that's something I would make in Minecraft kind of house.
Yeah, but so they're at this house, and some crazy communists show up to burn their shit to the ground. The last thing I'm going to be concerned about is the trigger discipline of the chick that never goes to the range. You know, she's doing what she can. Okay, she's not used to this. She didn't plan for this.
Well, here I got a little video that we're gonna watch.
Here's my rebuttal to that, which I completely understand where your thought process is, and I agree with it to a point. But if you're gonna have a gun in the house, everybody in that house should be educated on how a gun should be used, and the safeties of it, and everything else. Because if you have somebody who isn't comfortable around firearms or isn't sure how to hold it or any of the safety precautions or any of that, that is how you get accidental discharges and you get people shot that are not intended to be shot.
Sure. Well, sure, but the thing is, that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
It's preventable, though.
It's less likely to happen.
It's diminishable, but it's not preventable. It's not preventable.
If you teach them the proper discipline for firearms, then yes, it is very diminishable.
Yeah.
This is not diminishable. Like that right there. You get rid of that, and you're diminishing about 90% of these cases.
Perhaps, but when you allow people to own weapons, whatever training you give them, a certain number of people are going to accidentally shoot themselves in the dick.
True.
You have to accept that.
And I will give these people some credit, because if I were in that situation, it would have been firearm. Show, I have a firearm. Get off my fucking property. And then they don't. Warning shot into the ground. Get off my fucking property. And they don't. Then I start shooting protesters.
Right.
That's me. That's like you have done the 5 S's. Show, shout, show, shoot, shout, shoot.
Sure.
Those are the 5 S's of the rules of engagement.
I've never heard of that before.
That's a military thing, but still, like, if they're not listening to you and they are trespassing on your property and they are showing no signs of stopping, you have every right to shoot them.
Sure. Or if they're charging at your checkpoint with a pickup truck that is traveling at high speed, you can fire an anti-material rifle round right into their engine block.
Yeah, a grenade round from your M203.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
So here's a little compilation.
You can shout before you do that if you want, but it's, whatever.
Here's a little compilation though that I think you're going to enjoy.
To a heart-pounding scene outside the home.
You guys can hear this, right?
Yeah.
And a woman pointed
pointing a pistol and what looks like an assault rifle at the crowd yesterday.
No such thing as an assault rifle.
Hundreds of protesters who passed through their gated community.
Well, it looks like a military weapon to the media.
Everything looks like a military weapon to the media. If it's not a handgun.
Yeah.
Gotta love the Sam Hyde.
Yeah, I saw the Sam Hyde. That was pretty good.
Contra.
Yeah. I like the Pepe. I like the Pepe one especially.
Yeah, those are my favorites. They're coming up. This is only like a minute and a half.
That's pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah. I like I especially like the music with it.
Get off my lawn.
It's a really nice lawn that guy has.
Yeah, it is.
I love the shirt and pants he's wearing. He's got this salmon shirt and the khaki pants.
It really is Vice City-esque.
They gave her a minigun.
Yeah. That's really pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoy that compilation.
Yeah. No, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So, like, these people are actually getting prosecuted, by the way.
Yeah. Well, because there's a state prosecutor who's insane.
Yeah, and worst case scenario, they have the money, so at least we know that. Well, sure, the state may be crazy and go, oh, well, you're guilty, and they're gonna go. Let's go take this federally.
There's a huge mistake that they're making in charging these people. One, I think that there's a lot of public support ultimately for this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately courts are moved by that.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be, but they are.
Well, you have humans in there. What do you expect? You can say people need to be impartial all you want, but it's not going to happen.
Follow the rules. But
which they did follow.
Well, yeah, no, I'm talking about the judges. Yeah, judges that just make shit up on the fly are a goddamn hazard.
They're a cancer.
Yeah, but they're relatively common. The big mistake
they get drunk on power.
That's also happening here is the two people getting attacked are two lawyers.
Yeah.
Now, not only are they two lawyers, but what did you notice about their house?
It's huge.
It's huge, which means they're very well-paid lawyers, which means they're high up on the food chain.
They're two successful lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going after these people is a terrible idea. I think it's fairly likely that they're going to rip the state prosecutor apart.
He's just probably trying to make a name for himself.
But I mean, on the topic of the is this something that you
future trans dragon lady,
the regular person, normal man, to understand? In my response that I would have had, I feel confident that I could use that argument of, well, I mean, the regular man would expect to be able to defend his property in this manner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so different states have different standards for what you are obliged to do. So some states, for example, require...
Why is that?
Because the states write laws that are different.
Yeah,
that's
which
stupid.
Is why we have the Electoral College, so that the Los Angeles and New York don't dictate what fucking bumfucked Egypt has to do.
So here's the thing. So a lot of states have a rule that obliges you to try to flee rather than stand your ground. I'm
not in one of those states.
No, I'm not saying you are.
Nor would I want to ever live in one of those states.
Neither am I. California has a castle doctrine.
Really?
It does, yeah.
That is very surprising.
Keep in mind, California remains the state where Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon came out of. Until relatively recent, it was illegal to be a member of the government of California to serve if you were a communist. It was you could be removed from your position if it was found out that you were a communist, and that was true as of
when did that
7
change?
years ago. About 7 years ago.
How did they change so drastically?
Huh?
How did they change so drastically then?
Oh my God!
Oh, they just hit it. That's what happened.
California has been fighting the good fight for a long time, whilst everybody kind of laughs at California as it
And
fails.
they fucking gave up. Apparently.
Not realizing that the instant California goes down, all of their asses are next. So, in any case, no, California tried really hard to resist this stuff. We put something on the books which remains that requires that they go to a referendum every time they want to raise our taxes. You can't raise, particularly property taxes, but some of the other taxes as well, cannot be raised without putting it as a ballot measure on the ballot every year.
Well, that's something you have in common with Florida, then.
Yep. And so that restrains to a large extent the desire of the state of California to jack the taxes up ridiculously, because they put it up. If they put that on the ballot, no one's going to sign it.
One would hope, anyway.
Then, in that case, why does Pennsylvania have to pay for your earthquake? No, I'm kidding. I'm fucking kidding.
I agree. You shouldn't.
We're not having this argument. I'm just joking.
Okay.
He's being him.
Will and I had this discussion in private. Not really in private, but we'll say in private. Like what, 2 weeks ago?
Something like that. Yeah, it was about Floridians getting
hurricane relief
from the
federal government,
federal hurricane insurance. So you build your beach house, it blows away in the wind, and then effectively what's happening is some poor motherfucker in South Dakota is buying you a new beach house.
Yeah, I don't like that, because you shouldn't be dumb enough to freaking put it on the beach anyway.
That's what I say. And
especially
if you
in Florida, I mean, it's gonna happen.
And if you do, then you have to build the damn thing such that it's got a good chance of wistanding it.
And the point that I give is
fucking reinforced concrete, man.
The point that I give is their standards are the buildings need to at least withstand Category 4 hurricanes, which is the minimum category that you can put standards on, because Category 5 is anything that's above a Category 4. Anything above it.
I mean, that's just like kind of like here, where if you decide to build your house by one of the rivers, your flood insurance is going to be sky high, because the insurance people are like, "Are you freaking serious right now?"
And I honestly feel like a lot of the federal aid goes to the insurance companies.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Well, yeah.
Because then they pay out to the person.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you look at the profits of insurance companies,
it's just like money changing hands.
Yeah, insurance companies are frequently cited as being these money grubbing institutions, but if you look at their profit margin, it's frequently like 2%. It's not anything. It was one of the most bizarre situations. People were flipping out about the insurance companies with the Affordable Care Act, right? That was the big. That's a fun movie, by the way, too. I don't know if you've seen that with Michael Douglas.
So I just saw it, so I was like, "Hey, we were just talking about this."
But yeah, so people were saying that the reason why everyone's healthcare was so expensive was because of the rapacious insurance companies, and the profit margin, particularly of medical insurance companies, is so thin that the price difference between a non-profit and a for-profit, because there are non-profit health insurance companies, is completely undetectable. It's the premium is the same for a non-profit as for a for-profit. And that tells you how thin the margins are.
How is that even possible with what they charge for
you
everything?
Already said it. You already said it. All the money that goes in goes out. They don't keep any of it, or very little.
Because I'm sure you know this already. I'm in medical, and I deal with insurance companies on almost a daily basis, because I have to get pre-approvals for these patients to get these medications, and some of these medications are like $6,000 a pop, and they're coming in once, maybe twice a month for these medications.
Sure. Well, the insurance company isn't keeping that $6,000.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all going to you guys.
Yeah, you can be just the CEO of a nonprofit, and you're like, "Oh, we're making X amount of money. Well, Y amount, which is 90% of what is coming in, we're just going to pay that to employees and myself. And hey, we're non-profit.
Well, yeah, you can do that, but that'll cause you to lose your nonprofit status if you get crazy with that. But the the for-profit and the nonprofit insurance companies, generally speaking, have about the same premiums. It's basically identical. So that's how thin their profit margin is. It's so small you can't even see it. To give you an idea of what you're looking at there, look at grocery stores. What do you think the markup grocery store puts on? I don't know, whatever you're buying. If you're buying carrots, you're buying beef, you're buying a gallon of milk or whatever. The profit margin on all that stuff is frequently very, very thin. You're often looking at a profit margin as thin as 5 or 10% is the markup for the insurance for the grocery store. So the grocery store, whatever you're paying for that stuff, is about 95% of that is what the grocery store had to pay to put it on their shelf, and they're running the whole store on 5%.
That just seems like bad business.
Well, if you've got enough volume, it works.
Yeah.
That's the trick. And you could say, well, raise prices. Well, now you're competing against somebody who has the lower prices, and all your customers are going to go over there. It's a thing that's very interesting. As a sidebar, the grocery stores have extremely people are very price sensitive for when it comes to food.
Oh yeah.
Normally people don't care about a 10-cent difference in something, but you put 10 cents difference on fucking carrots.
Oh my God, it's the end of the world.
And people change their buying patterns. And the grocery stores are very aware of that. And so they negotiate very hard with the farmers and the other people that are providing them food for their shelves, because they know that 15 cents doesn't sound like a lot, but that's the difference between a sale and no sale. Like, the customer just won't fucking buy it.
Yeah.
And then the grocery store feels like a complete asshole because he paid the higher price, the extra 15 cents to put the thing on the shelf, and then nobody buys it.
That's how it works.
Yeah. So other things that we wanted to talk about. Did you want to talk about China getting completely diplomatically cornholed by India and a variety of other countries, whilst everyone in the United States is...
If you guys are going to get into this kind of stuff, I'm out. I was more interested in the health and the mental stuff.
I'm happy to talk about whatever.
Politics, no, thank you.
You don't care about what's happening with China?
I heard about them trying to invade
China
India.
can burn, as far as I'm concerned.
Fucked.
Oh, I'm in the same position, but don't you want to watch it burn?
No, because if I watch it burn, I'm going to want to throw kerosene on it, and that'll just get me in trouble.
That's all I'm doing. I'm just laughing while China blows itself up. That's all that's happening here.
Listen, her work kneeled for Black Lives Matter.
Don't even get me started. Don't get me started.
I have a story I can share with you about that. My company did the same thing.
Not everyone in my company did it, and the most annoying part is the one higher up that was involved in that. They got a picture taken, and literally this person is hiding his face behind some of my other coworkers because he knows it was stupid.
Yeah, it's the.
And then this picture's just up at the front desk for all of our freaking patients to come in and see. And there have been a couple of them that have just been pointing at it and just like making faces to each other, like And you can't even read the signs that they had up because they had signs. You can't even read them because whoever made them drew them in like pen and not like Sharpie. So you can't even freaking read it. And I'm like, the hell?
Yeah, we
get
this. Yeah, we get these big emails from our the upper crust, like the president, CEOs.
Oh, there's been so many emails,
and they're so virtue signaling how great
it's ridiculous.
the company is and how diverse they are.
Oh my! I swear to God, if I got one more email about how we support this, but we're not going to get too much into this and like trying to kind of walk both sides of the line at the same time, and it's like, really?
Yeah.
Can we not, please? Can we not?
Those are auto deleted from mine.
Pretty much. And then I get the whole 3-paragraph long ones from my boss at least once or twice a week saying how thankful she is to all of us for dealing with all the stress and everything else. Meanwhile, like, everyone's been like at each other's throats this entire time. Like, I don't know what the hell office you're working in that you think everybody's getting along peachy keen, but I would love to know what office that is so I can go there.
Oh yeah, I've rarely seen another time in recent history where people are at each other's throats so quickly.
Like the one person.
Oh my God! How dare you say people are at each other's throats?
What do you mean, you people? Oh wait, no, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it's completely different thing. Like the one person, like literally is like selling the bracelets for it and everything else, and my one boss like said, "Oh, she's like, oh, I'll buy like 20 of them," and I'm sitting there like,
okay,
what? And literally on one of the freaking boards that's supposed to be used for patient information, she has a list of who's all buying and how many she's buying, and it's like, what? When did this become what we're concerned about?
Yeah.
What? Like, what I miss? And then I get told I have an attitude because I don't want to stand around and bash police officers and everything else. I'm like, I just want to work. I just want to do my job. Leave me the hell alone.
All right,
Yeah.
Moonshock.
Yeah.
Do you want this video deleted for me saying this? Because I'm going to say it anyway. But Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization.
I agree.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
How not?
Let me guess. Let me put it this way. They show up, they bitch about shit, and then they go straight to violence, burning and shooting.
Right. I guess I understand that there's the property damage. I think
there's also the
I think you
economic
can make that
damage
argument.
of you disagree with Black Lives Matter. You don't want to suck Black Lives Matter dick. You're fired.
Well, yeah. I mean that should basically there should be some anti-discrimination laws that should be triggering in that context. But
it's not.
Well, sure, but like if I fire somebody for being a progressive, that's not okay.
No, but
right?
it's okay as long as it fits the
As
narrative.
long as you're conservative, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So if you, so that's not equality before the law. If we're going to have rules like this, then either I have to be able to fire somebody if they don't have my politics, or you can't fire me for my politics.
So people are being fired for their politics. That's the unfortunate part, and they have no recourse. Unfortunately,
then I should be able to fire you for your politics.
Hell, in your state, you can fire people for the race.
Not really.
They peeled back that amendment, not amendment. They peeled back that bill that made it illegal to fire someone or not hire someone for their race.
No. That's a resolution. I don't think that's passed.
Yeah, well, they're working on it.
Sure. Well, if it passes, if the people of California vote to change that, then that'll be that. But until that's happened, it hasn't happened.
What resolution is that called exactly?
I don't know.
Why would you do that? That you would think that would be a step backwards, not a step forwards.
Well, that's because you're taking them at their word. Why are you doing that? First off, they're liars.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so what they say is not necessarily what they mean or what their intentions are. So once you've internalized that they're lying a lot, I'm not taking seriously what their stated agenda is, because that's fallacious. Their stated agenda is power. Their actual agenda is power. Period. They're not after making the world a more equal place, a more fair place, whatever. They want to be in charge, and they want you to have no ability to gainsay anything they say. So any kind of right you have, anything that would restrain their ability to do whatever they want from moment to moment, they hate any provision that prevents them from doing what they want. And they're coming up with mechanisms to subvert everything because they want power, period.
That's true. I mean, that's your typical Democrat. They don't care how they do it. They just want the power.
Now, No, you can test them on this anytime. You can give them two options. You can give them what their stated objective is, so they want to help people or whatever, and then you give them two doors, one with that and the other one with power. See which door they walk through.
Power.
They're going to go through the power every single time.
Well, then which one do they care about?
Power.
Okay, so when their mouth opens and the lies come out, you know what that is.
Well, I mean, politicians are liars across the board. That's part of the spiel.
No. I mean, look, I understand that people
Republicans are less so.
No, look, there are a lot of slimy Republicans.
There are a lot of slimy Republicans, and there are a lot less slimy Republicans than slimy Democrats.
It's a bad idea to look at it on a tribalistic basis and nail everybody who has an R or D after their name.
You want tribalistic? There you go.
You want to, when somebody comes up on the ballot, you're supposed to judge your conscience.
That's fair. Yeah, and you should.
And that's not just an R or D. You have to look at the man.
Here's part of the problem with that.
Rhinos and dinos, which is, for those who don't understand, rhinos Republican in name only, and dinos who are Democrat in name only.
Yeah.
But sometimes even when people get into politics and they get into it with the good intentions and everything else, and you vote for them because you think they're going to make the changes, just being in that environment ends up a lot of times making them corrupt because they get the peer pressure and they get the whole, and it's not what they thought it was going to be. Right. It's not as easy as they thought it was going to be, and they break.
They don't have principles, and that's very common. And you run into that a lot with, particularly with federal politicians, because wherever the hell they came from, once they're in Washington, that's where they live now.
Useless just gave you your best argument.
Okay.
Republicans don't even do what they say they are because they're scared of the media.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
No, it's exactly it. So there's a lot of really bad Republicans too, and so it's not. And there are good Democrats.
Minimal.
You want to look for people. It's difficult to all the Democrats who are part of the machine political system are pretty much guaranteed to be bad, because these are people that are first and foremost picked by the machine to be politicians.
How about we phrase it this way? Let's see if we can agree with this. The bad ones are usually the ones that are the loudest.
No.
I mean, you can. Well, AOC is pretty fucking loud.
She is.
But you can look at the numbers.
She's hardly the worst. AOC is largely ineffective.
Who's worse than AOC?
I mean, Chuck Schumer is dramatically worse.
How is he dramatically worse?
Because he's.
I'm not saying he's good at all. He is fucking awful. But I think AOC is worse.
No, because he's effective. AOC is a toddler squalling and wailing her arms around while she shrieks. She's not accomplishing anything.
But she's the one that gets talked about a lot because she throws a fit.
That's fine.
That's what I'm meaning when I say they're louder. They get more attention because they're louder. So even if there are good ones, you don't hear about them as often because they're behaving and they're doing their job and they're not throwing a hissy fit.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
10 times more votes than her runner-up.
That's what I was meaning by the being louder thing.
But there are also ones that keep their mouths shut, and they are snakes, and they are operating. They're operating all the time to undermine you.
All right, so a couple things though.
Got a point.
A couple things though that I have to point out with this graph, these graphs that someone, I shared it in my Discord and they were like, these are bad graphs, and then they pointed out why, and I'd have to agree. Like, the only info you get is overall 25,000, and per 10,000 residents 100. Like that's the only info you get. So let's put a little bit of a scale on this, a little bit. So Cleveland here. The number we are looking at for Cleveland for the source that these graphs come from is 2,703. So this little tiny bar is 2,703 compared to a little less than 25,000.
Sure.
So then you get the per 10,000 residents. This isn't even 100 right here. for Memphis, Tennessee. It is, in fact, 93 rounding down because it's like 93.0 and then a number. Now, Houston is 52, also rounding down because it's 52.0 and then a number. So that should give you some information on these graphs to go from, like, it's not perfect. I'm not going to break down every single fucking one of these.
Well, it's worse.
I gave you the high end and I gave you the low end. You should be happy with that.
That's fine. Well, so the rebuttal that the Washington Post is making here is that crime is a product of population density. That's ultimately, they're saying that it's not the fault of Democratic mayors that there's a lot of crime in their cities because their cities are population dense, and population dense cities have more crime.
And then you go per 10,000 residents, which disproves that because
It does.
not even a single Republican falls under that.
Well,
An independent, sure.
It gets worse. So if you look at cities, cities with Republican mayors, there are cities with Republican mayors with millions of residents, citizens, whatever we want to call them.
Yeah.
And they're not on this list. So, for example, San Diego has a Republican mayor. I think his last name is Falconer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like about 2.3 million people live in the city of San Diego.
Which is compare that to Memphis, Tennessee.
Most of these cities that we're looking at here have less than 1 million people. So if you're looking at San Diego that has more than double their population.
What'd you say San Diego was?
San Diego is about 2.3 million people.
Memphis, Tennessee is 651,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So the argument falls apart again, because the argument that this gentleman is making here is that the crime is not the responsibility of the political. Look, I'm not necessarily saying it's the mayor's fault that people are stabbing each other in whatever city.
I'm saying it's the policy's fault.
But if you're going to start nailing Republicans for whatever, you're going to start nailing the police for whatever on some specious argument, then I can take that same standard of evidence and apply it to you, and by that standard, they would be culpable. And you can't argue that it's just a product of population, because there are cities with much higher population that have much lower crime.
Now, are you talking about the standard of the CHOP having 5 shootings within a weekend, where they would be the very top of both of these, especially per 10,000 residents? They'd be on top of that one for sure.
Not enough data. Not enough data.
That's exactly what they would say.
Yeah. No, but see, what I'm a little crueler with that, because what I would like to do is just to let it sit there and fester.
Oh, the CHOP? The CHAZ?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. I want that meme to end. It is validating everything I believe in.
On that note, you guys have fun. I'm going to go play Ark.
All right, you have a good time.
Yeah, it is validating everything I believe in, man. Like, it's just like, I've always thought this. Let's see this in practice. Oh, shit. Exactly what I thought is happening? Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Right.
I wanted to keep going. I wanted to stay its own nation.
And sure. Absolutely. And so if we don't have enough data, then we need to run a longer experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just keep it going until we feel like we have enough data.
And worst case scenario, they keep killing each other, which they're going to. They're just killing communists.
I mean, why are we stopping the mayor of Seattle's house from burning to the ground?
Oh, right? I mean, she is the one who said, hey, let's keep this going. They're just hippies. They love each other, and everything is fine and peaceful, and Orange Man bad.
Yeah. I wouldn't show up.
Let it go.
I wouldn't show up.
I mean, I think we should completely defund the police.
If I were
abolish the police of the fucking Seattle.
If I were a police officer in Seattle, I think I probably would not go to save the mayor's house.
Oh, 100%. None of
You
them
know,
would or
I
will.
would. So there would be a problem. I'd have car trouble. I mean, I don't know.
Man, I don't know if I can come in today. Like, I think I came down with corona.
Well, if you're already out on the beat, you can't suddenly in the middle of your shift, go I'm having a problem.
Can't you?
It's a little
Can't
difficult to do that. It's a little
Hey, I
difficult to do that.
wasn't social distancing from this person, and I wasn't protesting either. So,
Mhm.
oh man, I got the corona. I'm sorry.
Oh, you know what actually would be a good one is you could go to the hospital to get chest pains diagnosed.
Yeah.
Now, did you actually have chest pains? You're telling the doctor you did.
It is completely impossible to disprove that.
It is entirely impossible, and no one's going to say in a review that you should have gone to defend that house when you were experiencing chest pains.
Yeah. Hey, it's kind of weird. The entire police department, all of it, like the police system in Seattle.
In our defense, last week there was a deal on chalupas.
And on top of that, Black Lives Matter were protesting. I mean, I don't know if those chalupas were on the up and up.
Yeah. No, because it's entirely fair for that mayor to then be staring down the barrel of the disaster that she created.
Yeah.
Why should she be able to snap her fingers and be able to end the nightmare for herself the instant it starts getting real?
You mean the nightmare that the shopkeepers were having to deal with?
Yeah. They were out on the street begging on their knees to have their businesses left alone. They were begging on their knees.
And they were still graffitied.
We had this happen in downtown.
They still had to pay protection money.
Downtown Los Angeles, we had an issue where there were rioters that were going through there. And there were guys that were running, little shops here and there, little restaurants. A lot of these guys are not rich. A lot of these guys, everything they have in the world is sunk into this business. And they've just been getting gut punch after gut punch. This whole thing with coronavirus has been horrible for them. Suddenly they can't get any customers into their stupid restaurant.
But then again,
and then these people come through to burn it to the ground.
Coming. Because the protests are coming to an end.
Right, and then the lockdown gets put right back in place. Because they're not done suffocating the economy.
I think it was in mine.
But we had I can't speak to what was happening necessarily in Seattle, but the guys with the restaurants in downtown LA, they were on their fucking knees begging to have their businesses left alone.
They were just begging for it because of something like this.
Pretty much.
Except this is Nancy Pelosi, and this is everyone in a Democratic city.
Yeah. Well, my city was doing
argue with.
My city was doing okay for a minute, but it looks like they may be giving $250 million of the LAPD's funding to BLM.
Oh my fucking God! Are you fucking kidding me?
That's it looks like they're trying to do it. We'll see if it actually happens. You're talking about the police unions. The police union says they're going to fight this as hard as they can. And they're going to try. LAPD has been, really pretty good. One of the things that Antifa has actually been very upset with LAPD because what keeps happening is they go one place or another to do their protest, and LAPD just shows up and cracks them in the face. and the mayor was doing kind of a duplicitous thing, which I actually respected in perhaps a sick California way. What he was doing was he knelt for the whole BLM thing, but then he was saying nice things to the LAPD, and so the LAPD was like, "Okay, look, I don't really care what you tell those idiots, so long as at the end of the day you're not going to stop me from hitting them in the face with a baton."
Yeah.
that was the deal. So we'll see where that goes. What I really think should have happened with all of this, defund the police stuff, is it should have all gone to a ballot measure. There's these people are saying that they have a mandate from the people, that the people want, dramatic police reform of some description.
Oh, I even
put it
want
on the ballot.
Police reform. I'm not even arguing police reform. I'm arguing defunding the police. In
Whatever.
fact, I think they need more funding.
Well, fine, but consider look, reform can mean a lot of different things. So some specification as to exactly what they're talking about, put on the ballot and then voted upon by your people. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and then we can see.
I've been pointing out, though, police unions are the problem, in my opinion.
They're literally the last line of defense in this context. So I disagree.
I don't disagree, because those 19 unarmed white people that were killed by police that got fucking paid vacation because they killed a white person, they were let off because of the unions.
Well, you say because of the unions, but what we're really going to want to do with something like that is to look on a case-by-case basis at these incidents. So do you want to look at any of those?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what's a man that got hit?
I can tell you Tony Timpa off the top of my head.
Tony Tempoff.
Tony Timpa, Dallas. Let's see. I can get a video. Oh, someone did a Tony Timpa versus George Floyd. All right, let's do that. Let's do that. That sounds like it works.
All right, so
Start this over. Here we go.
Well, folks, here's another comparison, thanks to the person that sent it to me. Unbelievable. Just goes to show, if you're black, you will get a whole lot more publicity if something happens to you than if you're white. To me, that is racism at its finest.
By the way, I just randomly looked up a video search, looked up Tony Timpa, and this is the shortest one that I found.
Look, now this fellow, the white guy, Tony Timpa, right? He was killed by police brutality after the policeman had 3 minutes knees on his back above his lungs. There were no fucks given then, and they were taking the piss off and laughing and all.
They were joking after he...
Same situation, killed by police brutality, George Floyd, knee on his neck for 8 minutes. Right? Absolute mad protest. The world's coming to an end, and people can't hack the fact that happened to him.
I would like to correct. It was, I believe, 14 minutes with Tony Timpa with the police. And he was already restrained at this point, by the way. Cuffs on and everything.
Okay.
What about us?
So there's a variety of things that are happening here. So Timpa called 911 from the parking lot of a Dallas porn store, saying he was afraid and needed help.
Yes.
He told the dispatcher he suffered from schizophrenia and depression and was off his prescription medication. The news reported Timpa's death in 2017 investigation that showed Dallas police refused to say how a man who had called 911 for help ended up dead. The newly obtained video records, part of a lawsuit filed by Timpa's family in federal court alleging excessive force, contradict key claims Dallas police have made in defending the officer's actions. Police incident reports recounting the officer's version of events claim Timpa's behavior that night was aggressive and combative. The video shows Timpa writhing at times and clearly struggling to breathe, asking the officers to stop pinning him down.
Kept saying, "You're going to kill me."
Sure. On a custodial death report submitted to the state in 2016, the department answered no to questions about whether Timpa resisted arrest, threatened, or fought officers. Police had previously claimed to use only enough force necessary to block him from rolling into a busy section of Mockingbird Lane. In the first minute, Timpa rolls around near the curb, but the video shows a police car clearly blocks traffic about a minute later near the bus bench where the officers had pinned him. Several officers continue pressing his restrained body into the ground. He had been handcuffed by a private security guard before police arrived. He never threatens to hurt or kill the police. The footage also shows the officers mocking Timpa as he struggled to live. Shortly after, one officer ridicules Timpa's repeated cries for help, and officer notes that he appears to be out cold.
And they made jokes after it.
Yeah, they joke that he's merely asleep and try to wake him. It's time for school. Wake up, they say. One officer
You can
mimics
actually
scene
watch
saying,
that in this video.
Sure, I prefer text.
Okay. I prefer video.
There's more
and
information.
text.
There's more information in the video.
Video and text, because the video verifies the text.
Sure, I'm not questioning what the article is saying is there as yet. So let's see. Medical responders appear to take Timpa's blood pressure while he's still conscious about 5 minutes before administering Versed, a powerful sedative. So that's an issue as well. So he was administered a powerful sedative.
I don't know how much I believe that.
You don't
Because
think
if you watch the video, he's out. He is fucking out before he ever gets on the stretcher.
Well, the article, see, again, that's why these articles are good. The article is saying that he was administered a drug called Versed, which is a powerful sedative, by the emergency medical responders. By the time the paramedic gives Timpa the sedative, officers already are questioning if Timpa is awake. So they may have given the sedative when he was already unconscious.
Why would they do that?
I'm not suggesting that's a good idea, but see, now that adds a complication, wherein there may have been a situation between the paramedics and the police that led to Timpa's death. Possibly had there only been the sedative but not the chokehold, or only the chokehold but not the sedative.
There was no chokehold.
What, the thing where they're lying on him or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever we want to call that.
He had no vascular access prior to getting on the gurney. I've seen the video. This video, actually, it's about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it.
Suffocating people obviously is not okay. But apparently he was given a sedative when that was happening.
When this was happening.
According to the article.
What I've seen of it, he wasn't given anything. But then again, I might have missed something.
Well, it also may not be in the video.
You're gonna kill me. You're gonna kill me.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
so
here's the thing.
You're going to kill me.
We've got a complication that just happened here. Because and this is why the video is insufficient. Because
but the video shows him from the wrists up.
Right. I'm not seeing. Okay, you're telling me that you don't see in the video where he's given the sedative.
The video I saw did not show him getting.
Okay, are you prepared to argue that because it doesn't show it, it didn't happen?
I'm not going to argue that.
Okay, well then it's possible that the video is incomplete. That's the unavoidable conclusion. That's all I'm saying. So the video is incomplete. Okay. So Tampa died within 20 minutes of the police arriving, and at least 15 minutes before an ambulance eventually transported his body to Parkland Hospital. The officers and paramedics struggle to load Timpa's lifeless body onto the gurney. They begin to panic, seeing his glassy, open eyes and blades of grass stick to his mouth.
They didn't panic in the video I saw. When they loaded them in the gurney, they were still making jokes.
Quote, he didn't just die down there, did he? This is one of the officers.
I didn't hear that. Maybe they said that after the video I saw, after he was loaded on, but...
An autopsy ruled Timpa's cause of death was homicide, sudden cardiac death due to the toxic effects of cocaine.
Yes,
and the
he
stress.
Was on cocaine.
Okay, well, that's another mitigating element here. So here,
still, dude's already restrained, and you can see the knee on the back. It's unnecessary. I can hold a dude who's restrained like this by his shoulders, not worry about it. Especially when he's not really fighting, like he's not fighting from this point on.
We can do a witch trial and burn these men down. Okay. Or
I want bad cops to be fired. That's what I want.
You haven't determined that. You're not. You're jumping to a conclusion. The distinction between a witch trial and a trial is a trial. So you have to let people present evidence. You have to go through everything carefully. You have to give the benefit of the doubt. You don't just watch a video and then say justice for George Floyd and then burn the fucking precinct to the ground.
Oh, I agree with that.
You have to have the evidence. So you have to look at this. So there's a variety of things going on here which confuse who's responsible. So on we've got this thing with this versed sedative. I would want to hear an expert medical opinion as to the interaction between versed and cocaine.
It is not good.
I don't know that. I'm not a doctor.
I do know that. I am a medic.
I assume. I assume this answer. But the thing is
if you put a stimulant with a depressant, it is bad news 100% of the time.
Right. So we got cocaine and a powerful sedative. Well, cocaine, which is a powerful stimulant, and versed, which is a powerful sedative, happening at the same time in this guy's system. So am I saying that the what they were doing to hold this guy down was great? I'm saying that had he not died, you never would have heard about this.
Oh, yeah.
And you probably wouldn't have cared.
You can say the same about George Floyd.
Exactly. Okay. But why did he die? And you could say, well, it's because he was held down. That's certainly contributing.
It is not a matter of why he died. So
yes, it is.
George Floyd, the problem isn't that he died. The problem is that cop had his knee on his neck for 8 fucking minutes. The problem with Tony Timpa isn't that he died. The problem is that they had him held down for 14 fucking minutes with the knee in the back for no fucking reason when he was already fucking restrained.
Okay. So let's say...
That's the problem. And they joked about it after he was unconscious.
Okay. So but they didn't seem to know he was unconscious. So
they knew he was unconscious. If you'd watched
the video. Were trying to wake him up. They were saying, wakey, wakey, time to go to school. They didn't understand he was unconscious.
What? Do you know what unconscious means?
Okay.
Unconscious means you're out. Wakey, wakey, time for school.
But if I say wakey, wakey, someone who's unconscious is not coming out of it.
Yeah, sure. Sleeping is unconscious.
Okay, dude, come on.
No,
if I punch you in the fucking face, snap, your head just goes bam and to the right, and you go down. Okay. Are you going to wake up if I immediately get on top of you and I start slapping you on the cheek and saying wakey, wakey? Are you going to get no? Because you're fucking out.
That is another example of unconscious. Being asleep.
Exactly. And it's the correct. It's the context we're talking about here, okay? Because we're not talking about somebody who went to fucking sleep. Anyway, let's say they didn't hold him for anything, okay? Let's say they didn't hold him for anything.
I'm not even saying don't hold him for anything.
No. I'm trying to remove that from the situation. So for the sake of argument, let's say it's completely hands off on the fucker. Okay? Completely hands off. And then the EMT administers the sedative. And he doesn't fight it. He just, you're injecting me with something. Fine. And then he dies from the sedative. Is that believable in this context?
That is believable.
Right. Now, would you then suggest possibly that we should do EMT reform? A man died, right? Determining cause of death
is important.
Yeah. If you want to reform something because you don't want people to die, you have to know what killed them. Now, what I see with the George Floyd and what I see with this is I see two guys who are high on some drugs. And I think in Floyd's case, he also had a heart condition.
But I thought you were saying that there was no tox screening if you trust with Floyd. Prior to this stream.
I didn't say it.
I brought up the fact that the people who said he didn't have fentanyl and meth in his system at the same time were the Epstein autopsy people. When you said, oh, no, that was the autopsy person who said Epstein didn't kill himself.
Right. I'm not saying that any of the autopsies that have come out are correct in the case of George Floyd. I'm saying that there are different autopsies that are conflicting with each other, and that you shouldn't throw any of them out because they don't conform with what you want the answer to be. You have to slow everything way the hell down, reserve judgment, and go through the process.
I think that's pretty much then if that's the case of what you're saying, then we're on the same page on George Floyd, because I've seen the video of him prior to getting the knee on his neck, and he was stumbling and falling over and all of that. So that is very consistent with high as fuck on drugs.
Well,
like,
so
you're having an overdose type shit. I mean, not entirely 100% proof that you're having an overdose.
What I told you when we talked about this previously was that something you have to consider is that if you get an independent autopsy, the independent autopsy doesn't necessarily examine the body. What they may only examine are X-rays and photographs. And you might think, well, what good is that? Well, that's a good question. What good is that? I don't know.
There's a lot of information in photographs and X-rays.
There is, but there is not an independent tox screen.
Okay.
So when I do an audit of your autopsy, and I'm just reading through your documents, and I'm not actually touching physical evidence myself at all, I can't independently audit the tox screen, can I? It's not possible.
No, that is not.
So I won't find that there were drugs in the man's system. All I can do is repeat that you did find drugs. That's all I can do.
Okay.
So the Epstein, and for everyone's information, there's this kind of expert witness autopsy guy. He's been called in for a lot of different court cases. He was called in for JFK, and he was also called in for Jeffrey Epstein. And this guy with the Jeffrey Epstein case, he found that Epstein had been murdered, or at least that was his conclusion. He said that the marks and the spraining of the bones and all that stuff was more consistent with a strangulation than it was with a suicide. Now, in that case, I likewise also don't think that he examined Epstein's body. I think what this guy is he's somebody that you hire, that a lawyer hires as an expert witness in a court trial to give the other the plaintiffs or whatever's story in a court trial with that evidence. And so that's what this guy does. And I think all he does is he just looks at the report and then writes his own report about the report.
Okay.
I don't think he's actually examining the body. So the firsthand knowledge.
Fair.
Well, so there's a lot of things you're not going to find that you simply can't. You know, I can't do a talk screen on a piece of paper.
No, you can't. I mean, you could, but it's not going to tell you what was in the body.
No, it certainly won't. So, but see, by the same token, that's something that's going to come out in cross-examination. So when you have the expert witness sitting in the stand giving his testimony as to whatever his opinion is, he's going to get cross-examined by the other lawyer, and he's going to say, so for the information of the court and the jury, actually, what did you do? I mean, how did you form this opinion? And if he did it by just reading a report, what he's going to have to say under a penalty of perjury is to say, well, I asked for the report from so-and-so, and they emailed it to me, and I looked at it. And then the lawyer will say, so it would be fair to say that you've not had any direct physical contact with the subject that you wrote an autopsy report about. And he'll have to say, in that case, that is correct, sir. In the event that he didn't.
Yeah.
They know everybody who's been near the body. You know, anyone who goes near it, there's a little sign in, sign out.
Yeah.
So if some guy says he did an autopsy on a body and his name isn't on that list, then either that list is full of shit or you are.
Well, I do think we should we would benefit from watching the rest of this,
Mm-hmm.
which is about 4 more minutes, and I'm going to start it.
Okay.
We have to worry about it once he's up. Yeah.
So they've got cuffs there, which he's already got cuffs on, mind you. They're just putting their own cuffs on him.
Green Oaks cocktail special. Yeah.
Okay, so there's additional information here.
That is additional information that you had actually brought up.
But here's something in addition, I think, to whatever you're talking about.
The Green Oaks thing.
No, I'm talking about why the case was dismissed against the officers in the death of Mr. Timpa.
Because of that Green Oaks thing.
No, all 3 medical examiners who examined his body testified to the Dallas County District Attorney, John Crezot. They did not believe the officers acted recklessly and cannot and will not testify to the elements of the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt.
Which is fair.
Well, wait a minute. So now I got all 3 of the autopsy doctors telling me that it wasn't a reckless homicide. Do you understand? Like, imagine you're the district attorney, right?
No, this is America. You don't have to imagine you're the district attorney. It is innocent until proven guilty, and as the evidence is showing, that they had me until the Green Oaks special thing came up.
I don't know what the Green Oaks special is.
That was the Versa.
Oh, okay.
That's what they were talking about. And clearly that came up. Here, let's back up. Officers continue applying. Oh, wait. One asked about a Green Oaks cocktail special in an apparent reference to a sedative used at Green Oaks Hospital, a private psychiatric facility. That's open and shut right there. The cops didn't give him the fucking cocktail.
Right.
So to me, that's enough evidence that this is like George Floyd.
Do you see why you got to be? You want to just be slow about this and be careful?
I usually am slow and careful about this shit.
Yeah. Well, you were rushing a little on the video. No offense.
Yeah, that's fair. And if you'd have just let the video play, I would have been in the same shoes that you were in.
Well, this is why I like to read things. It assists the methodical way I go through stuff.
And this is both of those worlds put together.
Yeah.
Either way, so the one thing that you can say about George Floyd is it was completely unnecessary, which you can say about Tony Timpa too. It was unnecessary for them to keep him in that position for as long as they did.
Sure.
And
well, I mean,
they shouldn't. They necessarily shouldn't be fired for it, but they should be reprimanded for it.
Well, they what they did receive. Vasquez and the other officer present at Timpa's death also received written reprimands for discourtesy and unprofessionalism.
Which was for the jokes.
Yes.
Where the fuck did Moon go?
According to internal affairs records, Manzel and Vasquez were placed on administrative leave in December 2017.
And they were paid for it. Paid administrative leave.
Yeah, that's usually how that works. Dillard was also placed on leave in March 2018, internal affairs records show.
That's where I disagree. So when I have something come up, like say I have something, which hasn't happened yet. Let's say I have something come up where there's claims that I have abused a client.
Yeah. I
get put on suspension. They investigate. And if the investigation comes back, well, I suppose that kind of fits the same narrative. If the investigation comes back that I was innocent, then I get paid for what I missed out on.
Right.
Which I suppose would technically be paid administrative leave. The thing is, though, most of these times they're announced as paid administrative leave prior to the investigation being complete.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, where I disagree with things.
Well,
I'm wondering if Moon's internet died on him.
Well, the one thing which I think we can agree with is that they need to be a little bit more careful with these restraining holds that they have.
Okay. Yeah, like the knee in the neck was excessive. The knee in the back when the dude was already restrained is excessive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so something which is coming up, I guess, with some frequency is restraining some people on their stomach. And what they're suggesting you do is not do that.
Yeah.
So if you're going to restrain them, you want to restrain them on their back, not on their stomach.
Yeah, that makes sense because, like, if you got them on their stomach, then their airway is naturally facing downward, which makes it more difficult.
Well, it's also hard
breathe.
for them to expand their diaphragm.
Yeah.
The
diaphragm.
Their lungs, if you like.
Yeah.
If I think
it's harder. It is harder if you are face down than face up.
Right. So
Sure.
if you're face up, it's a little easier to breathe.
Hey, I got to pee again. I will be right back.
All right, man. Well, I don't know if anyone is watching anything.
Feel free to entertain.
I think I'm going to be very boring. I don't think I have anything to just say to myself here.
All right, I'm back. You sounded super entertaining while I was gone.
Yeah. So I'll just finish with the article here because I think this is actually a pretty well-written article. When officers first arrived on the scene, they told Timpa he would be okay. We're going to get you some help, man. One of the officers tells him. But within 15 minutes, Timpa's not breathing, and Dillard can be heard saying, "I hope I didn't kill him." Moments
Wait, who's
later,
Dillard?
One of the officers.
Okay.
Moments later, after the emergency medical technicians tell the police he's dead, Dillard climbs out of the ambulance, then holds Timpa's lifeless body. Dillard turns to someone before shutting off his body camera and says, "Sorry, we tried."
Base Lindsay says, "Looks like I have the floor," and she says, "I'd just like to take this opportunity to say, Orange Man bad."
Oh.
Base Lindsay is a journalist at NPC Daily, mind you.
Oh, is she?
She is, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Base Lindsay's awesome. I really enjoy Base Lindsay's work. They actually have an NPC Daily YouTube channel that, you know what? It's a short enough video. I'll fucking show it. Here, let's go ahead and pull this shit up. This gave me a good laugh. Where's it? Antifa saving journalists.
Journalist.
You're gonna love this, Will.
This weekend, a self-proclaimed journalist from a disreputable e-news site known as Quillette was attacked by Antifa, a group defending the streets of Portland against fascists gathering for a rally. Andy and Go is a prime example of an unauthorized journalist.
Andy and Go.
Yeah.
or a journalist
Gotta
not
love
well
that.
known or validated by working for a reputable news company, as opposed to someone like Joe Bernstein. This brings to light an incredibly dangerous aspect of journalism, which is that, due to the open nature of the internet, people have the ability to insert themselves into conversations in which they don't belong. Many journalists have worked hard and earned degrees.
This is pretty great.
Right?
Random people from unknown publications issued press passes and allowed into events without any credentials whatsoever.
Well, you know, I'd actually never heard of this
to report on
website before.
NPC Daily?
Never heard of it, so I'm going to bookmark it.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, you should definitely check out what they do.
No, I will definitely check them out on a regular basis.
important news. We also give away our CHAZ.
How neat.
These unauthorized journalists do not have the people's best.
I like the term unauthorized journalist. It's a good term.
Swaying public opinion for views or clicks.
How dare they?
Antifa attacks on these unauthorized journalists show that the people of the United States are just as fed up as we journalists are with bad actors trying to stir up controversy. A partnership with a group like the ACLU to accredit professional journalists would help change the conversation and make Antifa attacks on journalists unnecessary, since no reputable journalist would dare put Antifa groups in danger by filming them. For now, unauthorized journalists will continue to insert themselves
This is
into
beautiful.
places they shouldn't be. And until this changes, Antifa may be forced to continue in the same way they have been, defending the streets against fascists. Antifa's presence is welcomed by real journalists everywhere, and our support will not waver in these frightening times. We stand with you.
Now, see, I would claim that NPC Daily is more reputable than the Babylon Bee.
Really? Well,
of course.
That's pretty amazing. So, I'm just looking at their merch. I like the NPC face mask.
Here, go and share that with me. I'll toss it up on the screen.
Huh? Oh, okay. Copy image.
Oh shit, that's not it.
No, this is what I'm talking about. I like this thing.
Oh my god, I kind of want that. I really kind of do.
Yeah, so you can get one of those for $16.99 plus shipping. I like it.
I might actually buy that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it.
It's like, sure, I'll wear my conformity cloth. Or compliance cloth, that's what I call it. Yeah, my governor is actually making it mandatory. If you are off of your property, you have to wear one of those.
Right.
And it's like, we were just reopening. It was 91 degrees at the high today. And I'm talking like I was outside and my car thermometer said 91 degrees. I don't think Corona Chan is surviving in that.
No. No, it's
high humidity too.
It's the
it's a compliance cloth.
It's the curse of the Karens. Yeah.
When I get back from this weekend, I'm honestly going to do a video where I demand my governor resign.
Yeah.
Because it is ridiculous. My governor went and protested with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And now he's starting to talk about lockdown too. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Go fuck yourself, dude.
No, it's gross. And again, it's not democratic, because if you ask the people, hey, there's been a request by some people to defund the police, which seems like a radical move, but is that actually what the people of wherever want? And if you do, I'll do it. So we're going to have a referendum on this point, and we'll have a variety of different things that people can choose. And
look, I'm pretty sure the last time the government said you're fucking doing something, and I don't care if the majority of you hate it or not, We threw some tea in a fucking harbor and told them to go fuck themselves.
Mm-hmm. I like this headline from the NPC Daily. White progressives form racially segregated autonomous zone to protect people of color.
Yeah, like I said, the NPC Daily is great, man.
Yeah.
And they're more reputable than Babylon Bee. And Base Lindsay, you can quote me on that.
Wow. I don't know. I like the Babylon Bee. I also like the Onion. I think the Onion.
I like the Babylon Bee too.
Have you seen the Onion's cooking skits that they do, where they've got little things where they show you how to make food?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, you should.
Maybe.
They're very funny.
I'll make sure to check that out after.
There's one on jackfruit that is pretty good.
One thing I don't think we've discussed well enough. I think we've touched on it. But I don't think we've touched on it enough. It's the CHAZ. So let's to kind of bolster interest in the conversation. Let's get some memology 101 in this shit. Oh wait, this is 43 minutes long. Fuck, we can't do that.
Oh my.
Let's see. What's a good one? CHAZ Second Coming. Sure.
Oh my.
Did you watch Memology 101 yet?
Sometimes.
I like what they do. Today, CHAZ, we knew it came to an end. Seattle PD and the FBI had it completely dismantled. Is that the famous CHAZ ambulance?
I don't know.
Maybe. You know, the one that didn't help anyone in medical need?
Oh, really?
You didn't hear about the CHAZ ambulance?
I heard that there was a guy in Renaissance Fair armor that was a medic in the CHAZ.
Yeah, there was that guy, but the ambulance, they turned into a cookout place.
Oh, boy.
You know, instead of helping people who may have been shot or stabbed, as was common in the land of CHAZ.
Well, 5 times. It's only 5. Only 5 times in like a week, man.
Out of what, 100 people?
Yeah,
that's pretty fucking common.
Oh, come on. It's only like 4 times more dangerous than Mogadishu.
These are some damn good angles, man.
Well, yeah.
They got to be drones.
Oh, they absolutely are drones. And given the perspective, these might be police drones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would be surprised if the police were fine with drones just flying around them.
If they're police drones, they're fine with them.
Yeah. But I mean, civilian drones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a little close to the cops to not be police drones.
Because I'm pretty sure the cops would have shot him out of the air, which I wouldn't blame them because drones can carry explosives and shit like that. That's a big problem with the war on terror the army was having, actually.
Yep.
They would set an explosive in a drone and just drop them overhead, and drones are super fucking cheap to make.
Yep.
And
they're low and slow.
Yeah, what I suggested was just put some netting on top of the vehicles that would make it too soft. Night came and the rioters attempted to retake the zone. Of course they did. They wanted to reestablish CHAZ. So make the netting soft enough that when the explosive landed on it, it would take the impact out and it wouldn't blow up. Demonstrators at Broadway and Pine moving into exclusion zone. Police giving multiple warnings to move back.
I've seen some stuff where there's a machine that will detect the drone, and then it will interfere with the radio transmission when it detects something.
So I didn't know about that machine. That would have been a much better suggestion. I suggested a net, and then they were like, oh, but then you got an undetonated explosive on top of your vehicle. I'm like, well, that's better than a detonated explosive on top of your vehicle.
Yeah.
They were like, no, that's not a viable option. I'm like, that's a viable option long enough to come up with a better solution.
Sure.
Like, that was my whole argument. Like, yeah, this isn't the best thing, but, it's progress.
Right.
So individuals in crowd are throwing bottles at officers. Officer deployed pepper spray and are making arrests. Oh my God! I didn't know the Seattle police knew how to make arrests.
Oh, they absolutely do. They were just hobbled by the political administration.
Yeah, it makes sense. Fucking mayor.
Well, until somebody threatened her house.
Mm-hmm. I do not envy the police during this whole thing.
No, it's
Bro,
why
I bought
I'm a
2
little
dozen
uncomfortable
donuts.
with attacking their unions in this context, because that's something that I think that they need to protect themselves from crazy progressive politicians.
That's fair.
They can ford up behind the union and defend themselves. I think you got to give them something so they can defend themselves.
That's fair. See, with the Tony Tampa thing, the way it was described to me, and I'm not usually one to be like, oh, fuck the police immediately, obviously.
Yeah.
But the way it was described to me, it was like this dude was murdered under police custody. And, they I do feel like the penalty should be harsher for situations like that. The reason we have these protests and these riots isn't that these police are not getting penalized. It's that the media drums up all this bullshit.
Well, we have a lot of people who have a vested interest in chaos. And if they didn't have this, they would look for something else.
Yeah.
They're looking for any opportunity to create chaos, and they don't care what it's about. It doesn't matter.
It's the fucking Marxists, man.
I mean, it sounds conspiratorial and crazy, but they are self-described Marxists, and it's right across the board. So you get the BLM people coming out there and just stating it very cleanly. We're trained Marxists.
Yeah. And even the leaders of the BLM, I myself about they proclaim to be Marxists.
And then you've got Antifa, which has always been a Marxist organization.
Oh, ever since World War II, yeah.
Well,
ever
since they've been around, at inception they were a Marxist organization,
which was World War II.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you're talking about the reptile people, and that's certainly how people are going to try and characterize it. Like this is just a conspiracy theory. This is crazy crank stuff. And it's like no. I mean, like if a flying saucer actually lands on your lawn, and an alien gets out and he says, "Hi, I'm Dave." This is no longer like an alien conspiracy. This is you can see it. It's there.
Yeah, I mean, I got the best way to describe Antifa right here. We call ourselves the anti-bad guy squad, and we label our opponents the bad guys. How can people not understand this? We can never be terrorists because we're fighting bad guys. It's so simple to understand. Everything we do is justified because of our name.
Yep. Can I have that meme?
Oh, yeah, sure. I thought you already had it.
I don't know. Copy pasta that at me, please.
Here, copy.
I've got that argument thrown at me about a dozen times.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah, they won't stop.
What was the other thing I had for that? Nope, none of that. Yeah, the other one. Fuck, I used it in Twitter a few times. Oh, quite a few times. Let's check the profile, tweets and replies. It's older than that. Let's keep going. Will be coming up in a second now. I actually had someone call me racist because I hate Antifa.
Well,
Someone who I thought was my friend.
That's awful. Sorry to hear that.
Right. It's like, oh, I'm sorry that I hate, political violence.
Uh-huh. Well, we got them via Project Veritas on tape talking about doing eye gouges on people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the notion that they had was...
Oh, but Project Veritas is fake news. Duh.
Well, it's only fake news if the people in those recordings are not real and really saying that.
Oh, yeah. No, of course they're not real.
Right. Well, it's very hard to say that. So what are they saying? Like individual XYZ is an actor for Project Veritas?
They're all actors. Jesus Christ, why is this new?
Right. Never mind the fact that you can find this guy a good standing with Antifa right now.
That's just fake news. That is Fox News talking right there.
Right. Well, and Antifa will say straight up. Will say straight up that this guy is a member of Antifa. So what?
Yeah. There you go. That's one of my other favorite ones. Here, I'll bring it up on there. Whoa, dude. Antifa just means anti-fascist. So the only possible reason you would criticize my far-left street militia is because you're pro-fascist.
Yeah. Very true.
Duh. Jesus. Like, why is that so complicated to understand? Just because we say we're anti-racist means we are anti-racist. No, what do you mean you're not a racist, you fucking racist?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a tautological argument. It's an argument that's a product of a definition. I define you as being right or wrong, and therefore you are because I've defined it that way.
Have you ever heard of the colored conservatives?
No, but I mean, we're talking about black Republicans or something.
I'm talking about a YouTube channel that
okay.
I'm honestly starting to feel like they're just fucking grifters.
I don't watch a lot of YouTube. I got to be frank on that.
I do watch a lot of YouTube.
Normally, when I watch YouTube, it's cat videos.
They did an interview with CHAZ.
Here with CHAZ. He is actually a local Seattle rapper, and
the fucking CHAZ warlord.
Would you call yourself a leader in the movement?
Right.
I mean, it's just like not by choice.
Someone has to do it, right?
Just trying to be out here making sure that everybody's safe, and yeah, just listening to all the people. That's
So what has your experience been like? I know there's been a lot of clashes with the police in particular, especially SPD with the tear gas and the flashbangs. What has your experience been kind of like being on the front lines, organizing as well? Has it been peaceful? And then also, what has like kind of the response been with like kind of white liberals? Because I know a big point was push black voices to the front rather than white liberals speaking for black people.
Yeah, no, that's not my MO. See, that's not how I rock. And that's the thing is that you have a lot of people that have a lot of different doctrines and ideas. I'm not political. I don't care about politics.
CHAZ, the guy who fucking beat someone for not conforming to CHAZ value,
is not political.
Is not political. Yes.
Naturally not.
They don't call him out for this shit, by the way.
Who cares?
Yeah, no, I mean, I have friends that are...
Is this media outfit somebody that I'm supposed to respect?
Yeah, probably got some friends that are liberals now.
I kind of respect him prior to this.
Or whatever, but I'm just not... I see that it doesn't... I see that there is a flawed system, and when you look statistically, it hasn't really mattered who's in there. It just keeps on going like this. All of our problems keep on going like this at about the same rate, whether it's Reagan or Clinton or Trump or Nixon or et cetera, Obama. It's just the same thing keeps happening. So for me, I just look at it like a funny game that they give people, and I'm not really, I deal with things that I can change. Yeah. I'm sure I could change it if I really, really wanted to, and I really wanted to band together, but that's not my job. That's not my life work. So
what are you fighting for? Like,
He has a lot of
you want to see
sharp
maybe on a local level, and then
jewelry on his yeah.
You mean like his Tesla, maybe?
You wouldn't want to get punched by that guy.
You want to get punched by that guy? Why? Because you'd punch him back and he'd sue you with his
No,
money
because
that he paid for the Tesla with?
I mean, you can have a Tesla. Doesn't mean that you don't. The punch doesn't hurt when you get hit in the face with all that jewelry.
I'm just pointing out the fact that he is very well off, especially
So
compared
what?
to most of these protesters.
Yeah, and he's coming out here to self-promote, which I respect.
Mhm.
Can't even call it. I just like to stand up for what's right. That's it.
I mean, do I?
Don't stand up for what's right.
Am I someone who's going to buy any of his stuff? Probably not.
No, and so that's why I'm like, I think some of that is an issue. When I do look at different things, it's like, okay, I have a plethora of things I don't like about this side, a plethora of things I don't like about that side. So for me, I just like to be a free thinker and just take things in as it comes, and not worry about things that I'm not actively changing. So here I saw there was a chance to actively change.
God damn.
I think that it's wrong that the police here kill way more citizens than they do in any other country.
This was from your Discord? And I gotta say, happy 4th of July, bro.
What the hell was that?
That was your Discord, a split dick.
Yeah, we definitely.
Oh my.
Police brutality issue. Like it's pretty out there, and it's nuts. Like.
Yeah, I don't check the split dick.
Issue that affects black people and white people in every
So I keep up with your Discord better than you do?
That channel perhaps. The channel with all the naked people? Yeah, I tend to avoid it. Largely because some people have taken to just posting cringe in it. Talking
Yeah,
to you,
I can
Kyle.
agree with that.
But the only thing is that there's only about 7% black.
You know, you could, if people weren't doing that, you could look at it and go like, you know, that is an attractive body there. But when somebody just posts, I don't know, midget porn or whatever, which is what he keeps doing, it's just like, ugh.
By the police every year. And then they have things where it's like it's easier for
Yeah, so basically they're giving him a platform. They're not really, let's go ahead and fix that. There we go. They're not really calling him out on any of the bullshit that he's saying. And
Yeah.
it's
Do you,
like,
think,
yeah,
do you think they're free to do that?
of course. Well, maybe not with their surroundings.
Yeah, exactly.
That might be
So,
the only way that they're able to get this interview with the warlord.
yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable being combative with them.
I would be, but I would also be concealed carrying.
Something to consider with stuff like this. You ever watched any interviews with the great and venerable Larry King?
No, I haven't.
Ever heard of him?
I've heard of the interviews with Larry King.
Yeah. So he frequently would interview dictators. He would interview powerful people, often who were morally questionable. And he wouldn't get combative with them. He wouldn't say, you know, some people say, you know, you're an awful guy or whatever. Larry King would interview him this way. It's like, well, so you're a powerful man. Why don't you tell us what that's like, or whatever you want to talk about regarding your country? And you just let the dictator speak. And it's interesting because you don't actually often get to hear them just talk. And and they're not going to go on a show if any show if you're going to be combative. And here's the other thing. No one cares what Larry King thinks, you know, and he was a well-respected journalist, but nobody cares what he thinks. What they care about is they want to hear the guy that he's talking to. And Larry would get these people on, and you could hear them, and it was interesting. You know, and so you get this guy who might be a monster. He may be, you know, has killed 100,000 people or something. And you go like, wow.
Let him hang himself.
Sure. Or you know what? We're going to let somebody else in an op-ed like tomorrow do that. But tonight what we're doing is we're letting him talk. because people talk about him all the time, but very rarely do we actually get to hear what this guy says. And castigating him is not making him stop. It's not like you're going to bring the 100,000 people back to life by calling them an asshole. But it's interesting, you bring like Adolf Hitler on there, and you just listen to, okay, Adolf, so you're a powerful man, you're a controversial figure. What's it like?
Why do you hate the Jews?
I'm not even going to go there. Just let him talk, and you don't be combative. You just kind of stimulate him continuing to tell you things, and then that provides source material for people to write whatever they want about that guy for years. Because how many interviews are you going to be able to watch to then use that as source material to write about the dictator, absent that one video? That's going to be like the only one.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
you're saying that's what they did?
I'm saying it's a possible argument for what they did. Just you don't be combative. You just let them talk, and you don't do any gotchas. You just let them speak, and you leave it to the audience to figure out to be intelligent enough to read between the lines.
The big argument I had is that they were the group that they could go in to Portland and Seattle and all that because it's where they're from, and they could have these conversations with people where they could get this compromise of like, well, what's his face did? I can't remember his name, but he would go around and try to get people to admit Orange Man not that bad, right?
Mm.
And that was their whole thing. That was their whole shtick, was Trump's not that bad.
Right. No,
It definitely has a much bigger context than just Trump's the greatest God Emperor ever, than doing that,
Sure. Going into the CHAZ is not the place where I would go to be disruptive.
No,
It's
just
not
let them disrupt themselves.
not unless you're willing to martyr yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to martyr yourself, then it's a better place than most to do that. So you gotta was Ian Miles Chong yourself.
Wait, what did Ian Miles Chong do?
You got the crap beaten out of him in Portland, I think.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Antifa beat the crap out of him, I think, in Portland.
I've heard of Ian Miles Chung because of Twitter, but I did not know that that's what got him famous.
Well, he was known before that, but he got up in some people's faces in Portland, and they just put him up. They just put him down.
Interesting.
Yeah, his face was all torn up, and I think the local judges and whatever basically decided to not prosecute the people that hurt him. Give you an idea.
Of course they didn't.
Yeah. So
but you may as well be going to communist China and being like, "Hey, I was talking shit on the Chinese government, and these guys beat me up."
Well, right.
You'd be less safe that way, but yeah.
Right. So everyone's seen that image of Tank Man, right?
Yeah, Tiananmen Square.
Yeah. Do you know what that image looked like 10 seconds later?
He was splattered mess all over the pavement.
Yeah. So,
and that's how the history books remember him as, just the guy who stood there with his hand above going, "Stop." And then
the implication from that video is that the tank did stop.
Suddenly, the Chinese Communist Party was like, "You know what? Humans are more important than ruling with an iron fist."
Mm-hmm.
And that is what happened with the. So Lindsay's saying you're thinking of Andy Ngo.
Am I?
For Ian Chow.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names.
So yeah, if you follow the history books, and I honestly personally was surprised of someone who knows as much as they do about communism as I do. I was personally surprised when I found out that it was a fucking bloodbath, Tiananmen Square. Because the history books have always told me, oh no, it was peaceful. Like they stood up and the Chinese government backed down and everything was good. Lindsay says Ian lives in Malaysia. So that makes sense though, that yeah, no, that's totally a communist thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, this really horrible event. Let's go ahead and rewrite this to make communism look good. That's the communist thing to do. Always has been since the inception.
Yeah. No, well, yeah. It again, it's the same weird blindness you see out of Islamists, where they'll say, "Oh, we're helping people," and then you can show them incidents of torture, abuse, oppression, and there'll be excuses. They won't own up to it. They'll either say, well, that's not real Islamic law.
Islamists are better than communists because at least you know where the fuck they stand.
Well, they're less successful at lying.
Yeah,
but
exactly. That's why Islamists are better.
Yeah. Well, yes, they're more incompetent. But no, they're not. They don't own up to it. It's just an endless kind of hand waving.
You want to speak of incompetence? One big thing I bring up when I'm having an argument and they're like, "Oh, name one single far left terrorist," and I go, "The dude who firebombed the ICE detention center." Oh, but
Yeah.
those are literal detention centers, and like they didn't kill anyone. I'm like, okay, so just because they're bad at it means that their intent doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I love that because that just shuts them the fuck up.
Right. Well, yeah. So, like, imagine if four retarded KKK members showed up to lynch a black man, but because they're retarded,
they lynch one of them.
They can't quite figure out how to do it. So this guy is just kind of getting pawed, and whilst these idiots are failing at lynching. And then ultimately, they give up because they can't figure out how to do it, and the guy walks away unharmed, largely. Would we then say that the guys that tried to lynch him are
innocent,
not murderous scumbags? Well, they clearly are. They just failed. They tried, but failed. So, like, was it the Richard Reed? Was the shoe bomber? Was the shoe bomber? I don't know. But it was, we had the guy who tried to set his underwear on fire or explode his underwear. We had the guy who tried to explode his shoes on an airplane. And both the underwear bomb and the shoe bomb were they didn't work. But their intention was to blow the plane up.
Yeah.
They were trying, I think they made a point of sitting next to the wing because there's a lot of fuel in the wing.
Yeah.
If you can touch that off. Also, it's a structural point that if you rupture that, then the whole plane is going to the wing will fall off, the plane will come down.
Yeah.
So they're trying to kill everybody aboard that plane. The fact that they apparently fail at setting off a bomb that they brought with them on the plane, that's another story.
Yeah, so suddenly the fact that they failed at it means they're innocent of all charges, right?
Right. No, that's how the U.S. legal system interpreted that, as I remember.
Mm-hmm.
They just said, "Oh, we were going to put you on a terrorist watch list, but you're bad at this." So.
Yeah, that's why I tried to rob that one bank that one time, and I was just so bad at it. They were like, you know what? You were humiliated enough. That's punishment enough.
Mm-hmm.
Said no fucking robber ever.
Incompetence is not a defense. Well, Yumi, I need to blow out of here. I'm gonna wrap this up.
I mean, it has been almost 4 hours.
There you go.
Do you have anything you would like to shill? Including your Discord?
Nothing to shill. Let me just look over really quickly there are a couple things that we didn't get to talk about. One was that China made a massive blunder by provoking the Indians.
Yeah.
And so it led to a hand-to-hand fight between Indian soldiers and Chinese soldiers. There was clubs with barbed wire wrapped around them that were used amongst the weapons. I think 18 Indian soldiers died. And understand, they were stabbing and beating each other to death.
Yeah, but the Chinese had higher casualties, didn't they?
We don't know what their casualties are. The CCP has not reported them, I don't think. And if they did, we wouldn't know if they were accurate.
That's true.
So it's hard. They could claim that they lost 1 trillion people. You don't know. But yeah, so India is very upset, and it looks like most of China's East Asian allies are taking an increasingly hostile posture towards China. So that's good for the U.S. diplomatic and trade posture, because what you don't want to do if you get into a trade war is lose it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And so it's looking like the United States is winning, mostly because it looks like China's losing. They've also had some setbacks in Africa where they've tried to indebt the various African countries to do what China wants in return for infrastructure. And some of the African countries are starting to negate the debt. They're just saying, you say I owe you that, I don't. I'm not paying. And then China's in the unfortunate situation where they either have to suck it up or invade, which they can't do, because the instant they start doing something like that, the United States or otherwise is going to show up and say, hey, were you giving money to let's be frank, deadbeat countries? Come on. There's a reason why nobody gives these people money, okay? So you did. You're a big idiot. And now you're trying to use this as a justification to invade. Shut up. Get the hell out of here.
That is hilarious. And they're not that dumb.
Yeah.
I should hope they're not that dumb.
One thing that you got to be very careful with militaristic totalitarian societies is they're inclined to interpret tolerance, restraint, and patience as weakness.
Which makes sense.
This is what Imperial Japan interpreted U.S. foreign policy immediately prior to World War II as, because Japan had been doing all kinds of aggressive, ridiculous things for a while. And the United States was generally not responding and going, well, that's silly, but you should probably stop doing that. And then we'd mix that up with some trade restrictions or something like that.
Yeah, but that was also prior to the U.S. being the world police.
Sure. But after the U.S. became the world police, you had Osama bin Laden make the same error. So Bill Clinton fired cruise missiles at abandoned training camps in the middle of the desert as reprisal for Osama bin Laden's attack, I think, on a U.S. embassy somewhere in Africa. And there was some other nonsense where they tried to do a truck bomb on the World Trade Center. And so the response from the U.S. government was to fire off some cruise missiles and tell him to go fuck himself. Osama read that as weakness. And
Wait,
so,
what?
That's how he interpreted it.
How do you read that as weakness?
Because the United States didn't have a robust personal assault on his organization. There were couple cruise missiles that were just kind of casually fired off in his direction that, kind of plopped in the desert and murdered, I don't know, dung beetles. And that was the end of it. And so Osama read that as weakness.
Bro, is that what Iran is doing with this whole situation right here?
Well, that's another story, actually. We weren't even going to talk about that. There's been a whole bunch of the Iranian...
That's a self-made meme, by the way.
Nuclear facilities that have started to catch on fire and explode. So that's happening right now. There are Iranian military weapons facilities that are associated with the nuclear program that are catching on fire and exploding.
And you're saying that is a reaction of the United States causing that?
No one knows what it is. No one knows what it is. I mean, or I should say, I don't know what it is. It could be Israel's Mossad. It could be the U.S. CIA. It could be God knows. I have no idea. It could be agents entirely domestic to Iran sabotaging those facilities for their own reasons. I don't know why this is happening, but it is happening. I don't think it'll be the end-all, be-all, whatever to their nuclear program, but it is further retarding their ability to develop a nuclear weapon. Let's see, what else were we talking about? BLM is not merely causing problems in the United States; they're also operating internationally. This is evidence that this isn't about police brutality. It's not about George Floyd. It's not about the militarization of the American police system, because they're doing this in England, and England has
around the world.
But England has amongst the most touchy-feely, Barney, Cabbage Patch.
Oh my God!
You
stopped that terrorist with a narwhal tusk and then shot him. Like, no, you could have detained him.
Well, so first off, their police are generally unarmed. Second off, their police, they've got different tiers of their police. So they've got these community contact police who basically walk around in yellow fluorescent vests and say, "Can everyone just calm down, please? Please?" That's the first line of British police. Is you've got some people walking around in fluorescent vests saying, "Okay, guys, come on, you have to calm down now." And so you can't make a Black Lives Matter police brutality argument in the United Kingdom, particularly.
Not in the slightest.
If the United Kingdom has a police brutality problem that you want to have reformed, then you literally can't have police at all. And if you can't have police at all, you can't have civilization. I mean, that's just the end of everything. We're all just going to turn back into people just killing each other for food. So...
it's going to turn into people killing each other for food.
It's not about police brutality.
Forming their own police.
This is what I was getting to a little bit when I was talking to Moon. I think Moon is her name, or Luna. What should I call her?
Mrs. Uni.
Mrs. Uni. Okay. When I was talking with Mrs. Uni, and there was and it was also with the other guy, and we were talking about this. And there's this question about how things didn't line up properly, how what they're doing doesn't make sense, because they say they want X and then they do Y.
Yeah.
And what I was pointing out is, well, yeah, they're lying. They're what they say they want and what they actually want are not the same thing.
Yeah.
They're just lying.
I 100% agree with that statement.
And you can see the evidence of that in the BLM. Well, but particularly you can see it in the BLM protests internationally, because if the argument is George Floyd, police brutality in the American police system and so on, then why are you protesting in Canada and in the United Kingdom and in Germany and Australia and so on? And you could make an argument with some of these countries perhaps having some rough police. That's fine. But you can't make the argument that they all have.
Britain.
You can't make the argument they all have it, and certainly not to the same. Again, if the British police are a problem, then you can't have police at all, and that's the end of civilization.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're protesting in the United Kingdom.
No, the problem is that it's not a problem of police. It's a problem of Marxist police. Thought police.
Right. Well, there's
That's
a
the
shitload
problem.
of thought. There's a shitload of thought police in the United Kingdom. So one of the things that's been happening is people have been getting
But
phone
also-
calls. People have been getting phone calls from the police departments in the United Kingdom where they've said, "Well, we've seen a post that you made on Twitter, and we wanted to check your thinking." That was with a quote.
But you see, the reason those 27 police were injured in the peaceful protest is because the protesters did not have wrongthink, so it was fine.
Yeah, so it's a lot of craziness, and they're deeply dishonest.
In fact, I feel like this is a good time to reassert our allegiance to Black Lives Matter with the Black National Anthem.
Well, you know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be putting my hand over my heart for the national anthem to the United States of America.
No. It's got to be the Black National Anthem. This is the new.
Gonna
this is
fire
the new
off some
American.
fireworks. I'm going to eat some ribs. I'm going to have some corn on the cob. It's going to be great. And it's like the meme says. I just want to grill, man.
You fucking bigot. You're not allowed to grill to the American National Anthem. You got to grill to the Black National Anthem.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to bail.
Wait. We do at least have to hear some of this.
Do I?
Unfortunately, because I have to hear at least some of it because of useless.
I don't want to.
I don't want to either, bro. I don't want to either. All right, I'm good. I'm done. That's good enough for me. Okay. So you did not want to shill anything. So guys who are watching, we're going to continue this podcast every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Will may or may not be the guest star. I don't know what happened with Moonshock, honestly, because I DM'd him. I assume he has internet problems.
He said he had to go.
When did he say he had to go?
There's the chat in what is it called? StreamYard. Yeah.
I see that now.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there we go. All right, that makes sense. All right, well, that's obviously not going to be a normal thing. So, yeah. And if you catch my live streams where I play video games, Will is also a relatively kind of frequent cast member on that.
Hey man, I show up when it's fun.
Yeah. Well, you touched Alpha 19, the 7 Days to Die yet?
No. Have they made the textures not washed out and horrific?
Yes.
So they're not just desaturated and sad.
Here, let me show you before you go. Let's see. This is just kind of an example. Boom. They've definitely increased the they did a massive boost to graphical graphical upgrade.
Sure. Well, I may give it a shot. I don't know.
They've added dynamic lighting. They have head tracking now. So, like, say you were right here with the zombie, he would turn his head to you. So you're right here, he'd turn his head over there. They've done a pretty large improvement in Alpha 19, and I would say it's worth exploring.
Okay. Well, I must go. So have a lovely evening, everyone listening, whomever that is. Lovely evening. I'm out.
Yeah. Catch you guys later.